Why isn't it working? Why? I don't understand. My 2 live streams aren't working. Please start your main encoder first. Okay, I think we're good actually. I think it's working everywhere. I'm outputting multiple streams in multiple places. Let's make sure that everything's also, oh wait, that's the wrong stream. Oh no, it's vertical. Vertical's good. Is horizontal good? Horizontal might be good. Oh, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it, everyone. We're vertical and horizontal on YouTube. We're making it happen. It's finally happening. Great job, everybody. We did it. Horizontal and vertical and TikTok. Let's go. All right. So I hope everybody's having a great day. Let's get started. I have water in my water bottle. Can I do diagonal? I can do diagonal. Friday, how's it going?
Good, Doc. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
No, I don't. I myself am an atheist, and I requested up because I ran across some news. Not news is the wrong thing. Somebody talking about you this morning I wanted to make you aware of.
DM me about it, please. I'd rather, if somebody's talking about some weird stuff, then I'd rather that not be public, right? Anyway, yeah, just DM me about it. Howdy, howdy. Horizontal and vertical, both of which look good. I'm so excited. Who said anything about splitting your audience is a bad idea? Who said it? Nobody said it. That's who. How am I doing? I'm doing okay now that I got vertical and horizontal working. That's super, super delightful. If God isn't real, then explain the feeling after drinking a cream soda. That's a good point. You know what? You got me. I'm a theist now. I'm a cream sodaist. Sean, how's it going?
Yeah, hi. How's it going, man?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
I absolutely do.
Okay, and just for my edification, which one?
Great point. All right, so I'm from Iceland. I'm a Catholic, so I believe in the God of the Bible. I believe that Jesus Christ is our Savior and that He'll come back and free all of us.
Okay.
A follow-up question to you, if you don't mind. Why don't you believe in God?
It just seems like there's a lot of really good arguments against it, and not a lot of compelling arguments for it.
That's a great point.
So what would you say is the most compelling argument that you could give me?
Well, aside from the historical evidence and the miracle of the Bible, let's go at the beginning, right? Let's go scientifically speaking. Like, the universe is made out of time, space, and matter. Can we agree on that?
I don't know if it's made out of that, but surely those are parts of it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, you wouldn't have a universe without all those three,
Sure.
Do we also agree that the universe must have had a beginning at some point? We may not know what it is, but no. So you don't believe in the Big Bang?
No, I do. I just don't think that the Big Bang is necessarily the beginning.
Absolutely. No, I get that, right. So, time, space, and matter is what's known as a continuum, which means they have to come into existence at the same time.
Well, I don't see how that follows. I don't know why you can't have time and space without matter.
Let me tell you why. Because if you have matter and no space, where would you put it? And
sorry, I was talking about having time and space without matter.
I get that, but all those three have to come into existence at the same time.
Why do you need matter in order for time and space to exist?
No, I get that, but like if you follow the logic that I'm trying to use, and I'm doing it poorly.
But I want to know why you need matter for time and space to exist. I get that you need space in order for matter to exist. Like that seems reasonable. Why do you need matter for space to exist? For space and time to exist?
That because you wouldn't need matter. You wouldn't have where to put it without space.
No. Why do you need matter in order for space and time to exist? Why can't you just have empty space-time?
It would just be empty then.
Yeah, but it would still
Then
exist.
we would have nothing.
Well, yeah, but you said that they all have to exist at the same time. But like you could have space and time without matter,
Yeah, but that's
and
a
then the matter
continuum.
comes into existence.
That's a great point. But what I was trying to get at is that God would have had to exist outside of these things. You know, he's timeless, boundless, and limitless, and immaterial. And the first verse of the Bible in Genesis is, you know, in the beginning, here's your time, you know, God created the heavens, here's your space, and then the earth, here's your matter. That's what I'm trying to get at. So is it logical to argue that a creator would exist outside of these things because he's the creator of this system?
Only if you think that this system was created, then sure,
Yes.
I would agree that that if the system were created, then sure, you would need a creator, because all created things have creators. That's what the word created things mean. I just don't grant that the universe has a creator.
But so far, sadly, I don't want to say sadly because I do believe in it. That's the closest thing to a logical explanation to why does the universe exist that we have.
How do you figure?
Because the fine tuning of the universe is if something was off by a hair, like gravity was off by a couple numbers, like no life would exist. Everything would be crushed. Vice versa, you know? So the fine tuning of the universe, like
Did you see my
a lot
video
of
yesterday?
scientists agree that there is an intelligent mind behind this.
Did you see
Like
my video
Brian
yesterday?
Cox. I have not. This is the first time seeing you.
Okay, well, I made a video yesterday literally addressing the fine-tuning of gravity. So you can
my
actually
God.
just study this, right? It turns out that you could make gravity about 100 times stronger or about 100 million times weaker, and you could still have a universe that's compatible with life.
I've heard the contrary. I mean, I don't want to contradict you because I don't know much about this stuff. I do study astrophysics, but this is my first year doing it. So like, I'm not really.
Oh, good luck, have fun.
Yeah.
It's a good field.
It is. Like, I'm loving the books. But okay, so all right.
But
your point
I mean,
on
just think about it. Like, what would go wrong if you made gravity 1% stronger?
that. Well, from the point of view of some scientists, everything would be crushed.
No, but I mean, really think about it. What would actually happen? Like, if gravity is 1% stronger, the Earth's gravitational pull would be 1% stronger. That would be like me. So I weigh 150 pounds, which is like 70 kilos ish. I would weigh 0.7 kilos more. I wouldn't be crushed. I'd be fine.
Well, my argument is that if it were 100% stronger on Earth only, or in the entire universe,
If it was 1%
like, if I mean,
stronger
like,
everywhere in the universe, what would actually go wrong? What would legitimately go wrong?
well, as you said, obviously you would weigh 1% more,
Yeah.
so that wouldn't be much. So I don't know, if you weighed 70,
I would weigh
70
1%
kilos, it'd be like,
more. The sun would
more?
probably
Yeah.
the sun would probably be like on the order of 1% smaller because the gravity would pull it in slightly tighter. Galaxies would probably be about 1% smaller for the same reason. But I don't see why that would mean that you couldn't have life.
As I said, from the videos that I watched about this subject, it would affect things like the flight of birds or engineering constructions, that type of stuff. But
So birds would fly slightly less high, or birds would weigh slightly, or birds would be slightly smaller so that they could lift slightly, so that they don't have to lift as much weight. I mean, like, yeah, things would be a little bit different, but that doesn't mean that life wouldn't exist.
I'm defending this, probably I get that. What about planes? They would use more fuel. That would
Yeah,
be
and
horrible.
yeah, planes would use more fuel. That doesn't mean life wouldn't exist.
Right.
So look,
Well-
this is it's a common thing, and I don't know who started spreading this. The claim that like if gravity was even like a fraction of a percent different, the universe would collapse. That's like the worst example of fine tuning that you want to run. If you want to run fine tuning,
Bless you.
you should talk about things like the ratio of the up quark mass to the down quark mass. That's a little bit more sensitive. Like I think that you can only change that one within like 30% of where it currently is without ruining things. but like the gravitational force, you can make it like 100 times bigger, 100 million times weaker. You could still have life. The same with the electromagnetic force. There's a big range for a lot of these things, and gravity is the worst example because gravity has a huge range over which it could have been different. So yeah, I wouldn't promote the gravitational point. If you want to run this argument in the future, what I would suggest is read up more on don't just watch YouTube videos, go to like a philosopher webpage or something like this. Read up more on the fine-tuning argument, because the fine-tuning argument is genuinely, like, it's actually an interesting argument, and it requires some thought to, overcome if you're an atheist, but the way that you phrased it is not a good way to do it.
Okay, that's a great point.
But yeah, so there is, and let me just address the actual, so the argument that you want to make is something like, certain constants, like the ratio of the up quark mass to the down quark mass, needs to be very, very finely tuned for life to exist. And sure, that might be true. But the question then is suppose that were the case. Why is it that God chose to make the world, make the universe, in such a way that he needed life to exist for it to be valuable? Basically, why did God want life to exist in this way?
The honest to God answer to that is we don't know.
So if that's the answer, and that's a reasonable thing to say, saying I don't know is reasonable, but if that's the answer, then I can just say we don't know why the constants are this way. And we both have an explanatory gap.
Yeah.
And if we both have an explanatory gap, then it just seems like we're kind of in the same boat.
So you do agree on the theory that the universe does have a beginning, right? You're not.
No, I don't. I don't think I lean towards the universe not having a beginning.
So you're into that theory that says that the universe has always existed because energy cannot be destroyed.
At least that's not the justification I give, but at least that's the way I lean. I'm like 60-40 on that boat. Oh,
okay. So, I mean, obviously, there's no direct answer to that. We can't prove anything,
Well, at least not yet. I mean, like there are telescopes that are being built that, and you're studying astrophysics, so this will be exciting for you.
Yes, we can see into the past.
Are you familiar with the LISA experiment?
The what?
LISA, L-I-S-A. It's a proposed gravitational wave observatory that's going to launch into space in the mid-2030s or so.
It's Space Athena, right? Something like that? The Space Athena or something like that?
No, it's called LISA, L-I-S-A.
Yeah, but that's what it stands for, no? Like it was...
No. It's Laser Interferometry Space Antenna.
Antenna, all right.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing where, if we're lucky, we might be able to see gravitational waves from the Big Bang and therefore learn, was the Big Bang actually the beginning? Was it not the beginning? Or what it is? Like, this is not something that's, even in principle unknowable. We just need to do the science.
That would actually be awesome. I'd love to see that.
So here's my homework for you. Go get your bachelor's degree, then go get your PhD in astrophysics. You'll be done by, say, 2031, maybe 2032, and you'll be perfectly primed to work on the LISA experiment.
I would actually
You'll be perfectly suited to do it. You'll have the perfect expertise. You'll have the perfect knowledge. You'll be a young researcher, so you'll be able to put in more work than the older researchers will. You'll be able to make a big name for yourself doing that. Do that. I'd love to hear about you in 10 years winning the Nobel Prize for some discovery on LISA. That would be great.
Oh, that would be awesome, yes. Right. Another point that I want to bring up.
Yeah, sure.
What do you make of the moral law? People everywhere instinctively know what's right and wrong.
I think that is equally well, if not better, explained by the fact that we evolved as a social species.
The fact that we have mirror neurons, that we see something and we
something like that. But I think it actually goes even deeper than that. I think that there's definitely aspects to our psychology that is in some sense hard coded in. For example, if you imagine that you have two competing families of like proto-humans 500,000 years ago, and one of the families is just like doesn't have any sort of disgust response to gore, and the other family does, then the family that doesn't have any disgust response to gore just won't really care if like their family member gets like mauled by a bear or something like that. And so that family will just be less likely to survive than the family that does have the disgust response. And so it just seems like it's at least plausible that that one could evolve some of these kind of like proto-moral or like kind of primitive versions of morals.
Yeah, but that version of moral would be linked only to survival.
Yeah.
So if you deem something that's useful for survival, then you deem it moral. It's like in nature,
No,
if
no,
you
no,
see
no.
a lion
No, you're
kill its
making-
cub.
No, that's
Okay,
a mistake. So the point
No,
is,
I'm getting to a point.
well, no, but I mean, it just doesn't follow from from the premise that evolution led to some moral intuitions. It doesn't follow that therefore what is good is what improves your survival. That just doesn't follow.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I mean, like,
Okay, go ahead.
that would be linked to survival. Like, you'd see something moral, as in, like, killing someone of your tribe is bad because your tribe would be smaller. That's bad, right? So you'd link that to being moral. We shouldn't kill people. But what about slavery and, I'm sorry for the word, grape as well, and all that stuff? If you deem that useful for the survival, like, you'd say, oh, it's moral, like, we should probably do it. It's fine. It would help our tribe a lot.
So essentially what, if I'm understanding you correctly, essentially what you're getting at is you're saying, well, why aren't these other things that would have increased survival, why don't we have good moral intuitions towards them? Why do we have bad moral intuitions towards them? And
You have put it better than I did.
all I
yes.
would say is that the kinds of things that are able to develop strong moral or like strong kind of moral intuitions that we just kind of have from birth, these are going to be the things that are very, very strongly correlated with survival, because generally speaking, it's hard for evolution, for any sort of evolutionary process to change kind of things that are far removed from the environment. So as an example, evolution can very quickly change skin color, because that's directly in contact with the environment, right? Evolution can very quickly change hair color, eye color, size of your nose, size of your hands, height. These things are directly connected with your environment because they're on your exterior. However, evolution very slowly changes things that are like deep in your interior, like brain structures or like your organs. That's why, that's why all mammals have hearts, for example, right? Because those kinds of things change very slowly. So only the things that would have incredibly strong survival pressures would have a chance of even giving rise to some sort of moral intuition over a relatively short-term period, like 1,000,000 years. So these would be things like seeing your direct family being killed. That would have a sufficiently strong moral pressure, because if your direct family gets killed, then the odds of your family, thriving basically go down to zero. So there's huge more survival incentive there. But survival incentives associated with grape, that doesn't really significantly increase survival odds very much, because for a given instance of grape, the chance of pregnancy is not very high. Similarly with slavery, that doesn't really increase survival chances all that much comparatively. So what we see is that the things that would significantly impact survival, or the likelihood of passing on your genes, those things we deem as morally acceptable, or that we have moral intuitions for. Everything else sprung up from those things. So we have this moral intuition that causing harm to our family and friends is bad. Well, okay. If our notion of what our family and friends is gets bigger, well, then that intuition will extend. So all you need is you just need some very, very primitive moral intuitions to develop, which are fairly straightforward to explain. And then from there, the society can build on those moral intuitions and construct the things that we have today. Sorry, that was very rambly.
You explained it really well, though. I feel smarter listening to that, actually. Yeah, that's a good point. Another point I wanted to bring up, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
As when you asked me earlier, I said the miracle of the Bible and the fact that it's 64 books written across 1,500 years in 4 different continents, in different languages, all spoke about the same thing, the same prophecies, and they were fulfilled.
Wait, what were the 4 different continents?
I don't remember their names. Actually,
Africa. So the only ones that I can think of are Africa, Asia, and Europe.
And Arabia, I think. It's 3. And
Well,
Europe.
but that's the Middle East isn't a continent. Come on.
Okay, well, I wouldn't say continent. Well, let's say countries then, because it would be
Okay, anyway, you were
countries,
saying.
right? Okay, well, in all like 4 different places on Earth, all right, let's put it that way, in different languages, across 1,500 years, and you have 63,000 cross references from like the first book into the 50th book, or the second book to the 40th book. They all spoke of the same thing, and had the same prophecies that were later on fulfilled by Jesus, whose historical evidence is almost undeniable. How do you explain that?
The same way I would explain that, sorry, 1 second. The same way that I would explain that there are, hundreds or perhaps even thousands of cross-references between the different episodes or the different series of Star Trek. So you have Star Trek, the original series, which came out in the 60s. It is Star Trek, The Next Generation, which came out in the 80s, which refers a lot to Star Trek, the original series. Then you have Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Voyager, which refer to The Next Generation and the original series. And then you have Star Trek Enterprise, which is a prequel, which also refers to future events from the original series and The Next Generation. And then you have, the point is if you have people who wrote the later books that knew about the earlier books, of course they're going to include references to the earlier books. Why wouldn't they?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. In this context, they never met each other. They died in separate times, and they didn't have records until later on. We collected the books way later on.
The people who wrote the Bible, the people who wrote the,
he's a master.
The people who wrote the Christian Bible were Jews, right? Well, okay, they were either Jews or they were people who were intimately related with the Jews, or intimately connected with the Jews. So they knew the Hebrew Bible. Of course they did.
Yeah, it was written by 40 men. The Bible was written by 40 different men. So if it was written by one guy, I'd say,
sure.
Oh, this guy's a master. He knows what he's talking about. But it's 40 different men. I mean, it's got to be a divine intervention here.
What I just don't get what's unlikely here. If you have somebody writing the Gospel of Mark, and they reference something from Genesis, that just means that the author read Genesis.
You would think that, but what I'm trying to say is that we didn't collect their writings until later on. The Bible was not collected or completed until way after them.
Right, but the people who are writing Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the epistles, Corinthians, those people, they knew the Hebrew Bible. They were familiar with the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew Bible had already existed for hundreds of years.
The 5 first books were written by Moses.
Well, to be clear, I don't think that's true at all. I don't think that we have any evidence of Moses whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just what's being said, but like we don't have any evidence of that. We don't have evidence of anything. History is horrible.
But why would we believe? Look, the claim that you made is that there's all these interconnects, but interconnects are exactly what you would expect if the people writing the later books knew the earlier books.
But that's the one I'm trying to say, is that they didn't. They didn't compile the Bible until later on.
Wait, so you know that the Hebrew Bible was compiled by like 100 years before Jesus existed, right?
I think it was a little more than that, but the point is, 1,500 years is what I'm trying to say. Like it was compiled at some
1,500?
point,
so like the Hebrew Bible predates Jesus by like at least 100 years, right? And so,
absolutely, yes.
And so the people who are writing the rest of the Christian Bible, like the Gospels and the letters and all these things, they already knew about the Hebrew Bible. It already existed.
Yes, it did. It obviously did, yes.
So of course they're going to reference the Hebrew Bible because the Hebrew Bible is something that they were familiar with, that they were basing their work on it.
Well, what we learned is that it was written in 4 different languages. So it was Hebrew, Greek, and Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic.
Yeah, those are the 3 common languages of the time. So much of the Hebrew Bible was written in Hebrew, for obvious reasons, and then much of the Greek Bible, much of the Christian Bible was written in Aramaic and Greek. But that doesn't mean that the people who wrote the Christian Bible didn't know about the Hebrew Bible. In fact, there were translations of the Hebrew Bible into Greek and Aramaic by that time.
That's how they got their references, some of them.
So then where's the necessity for divine intervention, right? Like they knew the book. Of course they were going to reference it.
Well, the thing I'm trying to get at as well is the fact that Jesus fulfilled over 300 Hebrew prophecies and miracles.
Well, hold on. So I have it on good authority that he didn't fulfill any. But more than
What's
that, so I have it on good authority that he didn't fulfill any. But more than that, even setting that aside, suppose I grant you that he did fulfill prophecies. All that means is that the people who are writing the stories about Jesus knew of the prophecies of the Hebrew Bible and wrote Jesus so that he would fulfill them. It would be like me going back, watching the original series of Star Trek where they say, if we don't fix this, in 100 years' time, there will be war. And then I write a story set 100 years in the future, and there's war. Like, if they knew what the prophecies said, then they could write the books so that it seems like he fulfilled the prophecies.
I get that, but we're not denying the fact that he fulfilled. I mean, he didn't fulfill the prophecies. We don't have to say that. It's fine. Like it was like it has to be 5 prophecies for him to be the Messiah, but the miracles are undeniable.
How are they
The historical
undeniable? I
evidence
deny
of
them.
that is the crucifixion, the resurrection. He brought people from the dead. He healed people.
Where's the evidence of any of this?
The thousands of eyewitnesses at that time, people that were willing to die for that.
Can you name any?
The disciples are a great example of that, not to mention the people that strongly emphasize on the fact that he did do all these miracles, and there were
lots of people. So I agree that that by the time the Gospels were written, a lot of people believed this. Absolutely agree. The question is whether it actually happened. So, I mean, we can go down this route if you want. We can look at what are the possible explanations for the claims that we see. Keep in mind that the Gospels were written somewhere between 40 to 60 years after Jesus died, right? So the question then is what exactly is the claim that's being made by those Gospels? Are those claims reasonably attested by the Gospel authors? And what are the plausible explanations for those claims? So, for example, there's a claim that Paul makes at some point, I think it's Paul, where he says that there were 500 brothers and sisters who witnessed this, right? He says that, but then he doesn't give us any information. We don't know, like, this would be like me saying, yeah, I saw a chariot flying through the sky yesterday, and like 100 other people saw it with me. And like me just saying 100 other people saw it with me wouldn't be particularly compelling evidence unless those 100 other people came and also said that, right?
Yes, eyewitnesses, people that
right. So it only counts as an eyewitness if we know who the eyewitness is.
He, as you mentioned, he says over 500 people.
Right, but we don't know who those people are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really a valuable statement. The whole business of why we sort of trust eyewitnesses is because generally people stake their reputations on the belief or on their claims. So if somebody says, I saw a chariot flying through the sky, and if we can prove that they're wrong, then like their reputation goes into the shitter because then they were either lying or they're delusional or whatever. But if you just say 500 random people, then no reputations are on the line.
Because these people didn't put their reputations on the line; they put their lives on the line. They were willing to die.
We don't even know who the 500 are. How can we know that they were willing to die?
I mean, I don't think that you need to have them named to believe that it happened.
How do we know that they were willing to die if we don't know who they were? Nobody says they were willing to die.
I get that, but they did die. The disciples did die after Jesus came back to life. They
How
did
do you
not
know?
want to stop preaching.
Well, I mean, like definitely,
They were
of course, they eventually died, right? Like, because they're not still alive. Like, of course,
they got crucified.
They eventually died. The question is how do you know that they were actually executed for their beliefs? Because they refused to recant.
Because of the historical evidence.
What's the historical evidence?
You have loads of scriptures that talk about the disciples being unalived.
Which scripture, specifically? Because I think you'll find that there is exactly one disciple that is mentioned in Scripture as being executed, and I think it was James, if I remember correctly, yeah, right, and so it says he was executed for being annoying, basically, right? Like we can just pull this up.
Herod.
Yeah. So Herod put him to the death.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was about that time that King Herod arrested some who belonged to the church, intending to persecute them. He had James, the brother of John, put to death with a sword. When he saw that this met with approval among the Jews, he proceeded to seize Peter too. This happened during the festival of unleavened bread. After arresting him, okay, so I was thinking of a different one, but here it actually doesn't say that he was put to the death because he refused to give up his beliefs, right? It just doesn't say that. You're reading into it that, but it doesn't say that.
In Matthew 24:9, if you want to pull it up, it says,
Yep.
Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death.
So this is a prophecy, right?
That's what Jesus said, yes.
At least this is the claim. But the point is we don't actually know if this came true.
It is not mentioned in the Bible how they died, but historically speaking, most of them got crucified.
How do we know? Where's the historical evidence of this?
Bible, you have, hold on. Traditions fill the details. I lost it. In the Bible, James is clearly recorded as executed, as you just said, and Stephen too. Jesus predicts suffering and death for his followers. That's all you have in the Bible.
Yep. So the Bible doesn't say anything about people being executed for their beliefs. Well, Jesus makes that claim, but like the Bible doesn't say that happened anywhere. Now you can appeal to, it might be Josephus that mentions at some point.
The only okay, I just googled it. You'll find it in church history and tradition.
Right.
That's where you'll find it.
Right, and
You'll
so
find
these aren't historical
details on how
records.
they died.
These are traditions. These are just beliefs. These aren't like historical records that we have evidence for.
That's a good point. And the only reason why we believe them is, why would it be any other way? But we do know that they got killed for it.
No, we don't.
Why is it so detailed?
we don't know that they got killed for it. That's the
Jesus
point.
did predict it. He said that you will be killed if you...
So surely Christians were persecuted, absolutely, by the Romans for about 200 years. That definitely happened. But the question is not about just Christians being persecuted, because that definitely happened. The question is about whether the disciples got executed for their crimes or for their beliefs, right?
Yes, and they still do.
So that's the claim that I don't think that there's any evidence to support. And consider the more likely alternative. So I think it's even plausible that many of these people were executed, but consider rather that what was happening here is that you have Romans who see something that they deem as criminal happening, and then they arrest the person, convict the person, and then execute them. There was no chance to in our court system, if somebody does something, there's no chance to go like, oh, I'm so sorry, I won't do it again. Like, there's no chance to do that. You did the crime, you go to jail. If that was how the Romans treated them, they saw somebody, what they doing, like fomenting rebellion or whatever they were doing, then they would be sentenced. They don't get a chance to back off of their beliefs. They did the crime.
You yet again bring up an amazing point on that, and the fact that it is not mentioned in the Bible what happened to them. We cannot know for sure. We just have to go with the church history and say, you know what? They know what they're talking about. There's no reason to lie about this stuff. So far, that's all we can say.
And the church is famous for always telling the truth, right?
Absolutely not. Firsthand, as a Christian, I can tell you that no. So the whole point that we try to say as Christians is that Christianity is not holy. It was used to justify crusades, slavery, and terrible things. Christians are holy because we follow Jesus. That's what separates us. We don't follow the Bible to the letter. We don't have to read the Bible to be good Christians. But that's not the point. My last point, and I'm gonna bring this up and I'll be done. I'm sorry I took too much time.
You're fine.
Yeah. How do you explain personal experience? Like, billions of people report a personal encounter with God through prayer, guidance, and then transformation through that. How do you explain, God isn't just an abstract idea. He wants a relationship with humans. Like, they didn't all hallucinate the same thing.
So generally, generally I just don't engage with personal experiences, because even if somebody says they have a personal experience, nobody can like ever verify that. It's just like something that happened to them, and it might be very compelling for them, but it will not be compelling to anyone else. That said, I can speculate. I think that generally humans have a part of the brain that if you like trigger it, then like you'll have like hallucinations, like religious hallucinations. And so like, sorry, one sec. And so it's super plausible that like some people, everybody's brain is different. Some people will have brains that are more susceptible to having these kinds of hallucinations or these kinds of experiences. And then they will interpret those experiences through the lens of the culture that they grew up in. So you'll end up with people who grew up in the West, say, they will have Christian personal experiences. And then, you'll have people who grew up in India have Hindu personal experiences. And you'll have people who grew up in China have Buddhist personal experiences. And all that's happening is that humans have this, basically all humans have features in our brains that allow for us to have like these kinds of spiritual experiences. And through, something going wrong, or like, some weird brain phenomenon, or just something triggering it, you can end up with something that is then interpreted in the lens of the culture that you grew up in.
That makes sense, yeah. But the vast majority of the world had that experience. That's why many people converted to Christianity, is that, they just prayed, and all of a sudden God did show up, and God did tell them that, hey, I'm here. What do you need?
Well, to be clear, the vast majority of the world did not convert to Christianity. The vast majority of the world isn't Christian. And the vast majority of Christians did not convert. No, Christians make up like... It's the number one religion, but Christians make up like just over 2 billion people, and there's 8 billion people in the world.
No, I get it. If you divide all of them, then yeah, I'm just saying that it's the number one religion.
It's the number one religion, but most people who are Christian did not convert. They just kind of grew up in a Christian household. So I don't think it would be true to say that most people have had religious experiences.
That's true. The vast majority of Christians just happen to be brought up Christian, but you also have a very big number of people that converted to Christianity because it simply made sense to them. And how do you explain
lots of people convert to Christianity.
There isn't a fact or teaching in the Bible, not the Old Testament, don't bring that up, that if you apply it to your life, it doesn't instantly make it better. Because the point I'm saying is that you have nothing to lose. It's just win-win.
So, to be clear, and I hate to do this, there's a verse in the Bible that says women should be silent in church and then get their opinions from their husbands.
You absolutely are correct. That was in the New Testament, and it was said by Paul.
Yep.
But in the context of that, if you read the whole thing, Paul was addressing a specific issue in the region he was in. And he was trying to
he doesn't say that.
No,
I've read the whole thing. He doesn't say that. He writes this as a letter to a particular community, I suppose. But he still says that women should do this. He doesn't say the women here, and he is still specifically targeting women. We can also talk about gay people. The New Testament doesn't have nice things to say about gay people.
It says that it's unholy. It doesn't say that we should kill
that's pretty
them.
bad.
It isn't. It says that it's not moral. You shouldn't do it.
Well, yeah, and that's like a shitty thing to say to someone.
It is, but and
I would say that living that way would make your life worse if you're gay.
I've seen many people from the LGBT convert to Christianity and fix their ways, and they got married and got children, and they've never been happier. I hate to bring that up, obviously, but it's just what it is. And as for the poll thing, just to clarify,
I would be I would love to see data on that. I would bet you so much money that the vast majority of people who are gay, like gay men, for example, if they get married, are not in happy marriages.
I just realized that I said
fix
their ways was a horrible thing to say. I'm sorry, guys. I did not mean it that way. Fix their ways in regards of following the religion. There's nothing to fix. If you're happy, you're happy. You do whatever you want. But I'm saying that once they converted, they've changed their ways. Not because it's the correct way, it's just the way that they are supposed to follow because they're Christian. So I'm sorry to have safe fix. I did not mean it that way.
No, I appreciate the the introspection. But look, all I'm saying is that it seems like there are a lot of things that are like, you know, generally the New Testament is like nicer than the Hebrew Bible, but like that doesn't mean that like it's still a 2,000-year-old book, and it still has a lot of things that are really outdated. Like it talks about how slaves should obey their masters. Also, like come on, like there are things in there that we wouldn't want to follow today.
You're absolutely correct. That's why I said Christianity is not holy.
Right, but
Christians are holy.
But you also said that there's not one thing in the New Testament that if you lived your life that way wouldn't make your life better.
A teaching, yes, a teaching, something that it tells you to do.
Slaves, obey your masters. That's a teaching.
It's more of how you should do it. It tells you how you should treat your slaves if you happen to have some. I mean, slaves.
Wait, no. This is telling slaves how they should treat their masters, not the other way around.
Right. Also, you also would find verses that tells the master how they should treat their slaves fairly, and they can only keep them for 6 years and not have them for longer than that.
I don't think it says that.
Well, you will find it actually. You can look it up. It's one of the rights that are given to slaves.
All right, let's see.
Slavery doesn't exist in the terms.
Oh, so you're talking about? Are you talking about the Exodus laws? Because that's the Hebrew Bible, not the New Testament.
That's the Hebrew Bible. Yes, it talks
right.
about
But that only applies to Hebrew slaves. It doesn't apply to all slaves.
Yes, foreigner slaves is more like how is it called?
Chattel. Yeah.
Chattel, yeah, chattel slavery. It addresses that, but it also gives a set of rules that how you should treat them and not mistreat them. It doesn't justify it. Slavery should never be justified. That's why I said Christianity was used to justify terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
But once Jesus came in, he made the old covenant obsolete because he fulfilled everything that needs to be fulfilled in it. And also gave some teachings that kind of kill the slavery system, but he didn't address it straight up. Like he tells, love yourself as love your neighbor, or treat your neighbor as you.
But we shouldn't do that, right?
We should not. We should not. No.
We should not love our. We should not. Love our neighbors as ourselves. That's not a really good moral teaching. Because if it were the case,
we should not have slaves. But
oh no, I was talking about the golden rule stuff. Because if the golden rule was like a good moral teaching, like treat your neighbor as you would like to be treated, as you would love to be treated, or whatever. Well, what if you want to be
do to others as you would do to yourself?
Yeah. What if you want
bring up people that people that are into pain?
Yeah, that doesn't work.
I know. I heard that so many times, and I have no counter argument for that. It's just a funny thing that people bring up.
It is funny. I mean, that's just because it's like the.
It's true.
I mean, the point is that like people, like if you look at it on the surface, it's like, oh, it's so nice. Like treat everybody that you would want to be treated. But like some people don't want to be treated in the way that you would want to be treated. So like you should treat them. Rather, it's treat people how they want to be treated, not how you would want to be treated.
You're absolutely right.
That would have been better. Would have been a better moral teaching. Look, Sean, you've been on for almost 45 minutes, so I'm going to let you go. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I've had a blast. Thank you for speaking with me.
Likewise. Thanks for being here, Sean. Take care.
Bye.
All right. We have John Paul the First on YouTube. John Paul, can you hear me? Jean Paul? Jean Paul, you are unmuted. You got to say something though. Oh, bummer. Okay, we'll move on to a TikTok guest. All right. Oh, we have a lot of guests in the guest box. Let's bring up ZG. ZG, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God, ZG?
Yeah.
And which one, just so I can know?
Allah.
Okay, great. And what would you say is the most compelling argument you could offer me in favor of that view?
Okay, so I'm still 18, so I don't know like as much as I would like to know. So sure. I have like an argument that I think would work, but I don't know. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you, with prophecy, like long term, so let's say over hundreds of years, work as a argument.
So the thing about prophecy is that it needs to be specific, and it needs to be able to be it needs to be specific with regards to the event, and it needs to be specific with regards to the time. If you can do those, then sure.
Okay. So look, I'm gonna be talking about the minor signs of the day of judgment from Islam.
Okay.
So for like I have a few ones that are happening at this moment. I'll just put them up. Yeah. So there's one where it's about the like you know how in Dubai there's the Burj Khalifa and everything. So there's gonna be like so I'm just putting it up, but it's gonna say shepherds or like almost like desert people, like so people from the Middle East.
Oh, you're talking about the skyscraper. Yeah, the skyscraper. The thing about that prophecy is it's not specific. It doesn't say when, and it's not specific about the details.
What about? Okay. So, I understand.
So look. What would make a prophecy compelling if it says in 130 years a man named blah 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 will rise up and take control of the Saudi kingdom or something like that. If the prophecies were like that, that would be very compelling. But if the prophecy is in the future the people of the sand will build big building, like it's too vague.
Okay. What like if it said about a place but not really a time? Look, there's the Great Fire of Hijaz. It happened in the year 1256, where a massive fire, like it happened near Medina. Look that up. It was documented that a fire would appear, like from the Prophet. The fire would appear in the land of Hijaz, which will be seen from the inhabitants of Basra, which is in Syria.
Yeah. So I guess the verse is something, or the English translation is something like, the last hour would not come until fire emits from the earth of Hijaz, a fire which would illuminate the necks of the camels of Busra. Is that right?
Yeah.
And when was this fire?
It was on 1256.
And did the last hour come?
No, it's look. So it's more of like a checklist. So if everything happens, it will start. If you understand, that's how like the minor signs work. Where the appearance or the coming of the Prophet Muhammad is one of those signs. It sounds
like you're saying that all that's necessary for this prophecy to be true is that for there to be a big fire in Hijaz, so big that it could be seen in Busra. But that's just not miraculous then, right? Like fires happen in places.
What about like if okay, we will win this war. But not this war. If you understand, so the Muslim the Muslim contest. The Constantinople conquest by the Muslims. I think it was predicted by the.
Sorry, what's the prophecy? I didn't catch it.
I can put it up, but it's like the Muslim conquest of Constantinople. Sorry.
The Muslim conquest of Constantinople. Yeah. So I could be incorrect here, but if I remember correctly, it was at this point in time when the Muslims were doing well in their conquests, and so this is the kind of thing where it'd be like, if the Mongolians, after they had conquered China, if the Mongolians prophesied, we will spread as far west as the sea and as far east as the, like, but they were doing well. So, like, why is it so surprising?
It was predicted 1,000 years before by the Prophet. So, like, the conquest of Constantinople.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking there was a different battle that was prophesied, and this was in a battle between the Muslim Arabs and
the Romans.
Romans. It was another group. Was it like the I don't remember. It was like a North Middle Eastern group, if I remember correctly. But anyway, what's the prophecy about taking Constantinople?
I have to put it up. It's not. Wait, sorry. I have to delete this because it's not really. It's not consensus. It's not a consensus on the Muslims, so I don't think it's a valid argument. You could say.
Okay.
That's because. But I'm sorry, I don't have really strong arguments. As I said, I'm still young and I don't know as much as I want to know about Islam. But yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. Take care, ZG.
Bye.
All right, let's talk to Chris. By the way, if you like what you're seeing, consider supporting the live, whether it's via Cash App, via Patreon, via Super Chats, via TikTok stuff. Great ways to support the lives in all sorts of ways. Chris, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing A-okay. Do you believe in God, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And which one?
Super intelligence in n-dimensional space.
Super intelligence in n-dimensional space. All right, what's the best argument that such a thing exists?
I was exploring ideas of, dimensional space and logic gates, how computation involves, two inputs and an output, and it's hierarchical structure to form abstractions in intelligence and thought. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. It's live.
You're fine.
Well, what I'm getting at is that with higher dimensional space, I with just like the fractal nature of reality, how like everything branches out into more further complexity. But if there is higher dimensional space, wouldn't a logic gate expand itself into even something possibly infinite? And so, or I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Why do you think that there's higher dimensional space at all?
There are studies about, they're all theoretical science on higher dimensionals, string theory, and it hints to that, obviously. But like I would, if I try to look at the fundamentals, is like, yeah, we have three-dimensional space, and then there's like this lingering thing called time. That's another dimension in a sense, right? And so I don't like to look at dimensions as like up, down, left, right. I look at them like in an abstract sense, like they can be another dimension of time, let's say, like, and I think there's also studies on three-dimensional time.
Well, so to be clear, a dimension is a direction, right? That's how it's defined.
But like, let's say like with variables in math, it's like a dimension can be an abstract like thing. I mean, like
it can be a direction in an abstract space, but that doesn't mean it's not a direction.
I see.
A dimension is the thing that we ascribe to, like, well, you can ascribe it to like topological spaces, but typically we ascribe them to like vector spaces. And you just count the number of basis elements in the vector space. So those are your different directions that you can go in, and that's your dimension. But like, so look, it seems like if your view on the existence of this higher intelligence existing is, or if your belief in this higher intelligence existing is predicated on string theory being true, like why do you think string theory is true?
Right. So I look at, like, if you try to think of like quantum physics, it's the smallest particle that you can, find or measure, right?
Sure.
Does that imply like one-dimensional space to you? Like that it's one, like that one unit is one-dimensional space?
No, it's like a quantum particle isn't space.
Okay, I see. Yeah, and I'm trying to understand like this concept of dimension, and yeah, I was hoping for you to give me some clarity on this, because
so we have no evidence that there's more than the 4 space-time dimensions. That's the current scientific consensus, right? But there's just no evidence of anything more than that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's hard to say, because if you're that single one unit, right, you won't experience anything. Like that one unit doesn't experience interaction with another unit. I
don't know what you mean by that. Like electrons have reference frames. They can, I mean, electrons aren't intelligent, but they can have experiences in some sense.
I see. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. I was just
Sorry to burst your bubble,
exploring the thought
Chris.
that maybe. Yeah, no problem.
All right, I'm gonna let you go.
There are.
I'm gonna let you go, Chris, because it seems like that we're not really getting anywhere. But thank you for being here. All right, let's move on to another guest. The Blackness. What a name. The Blackness, how's it going?
Hey, dude. Doing well. I was thinking about like a really easy way that if there were a God, they could.
Hold on, before we get into it, do you believe in God?
No.
Okay. Well, it does say, can you convince me to believe in your God? So I'm gonna let you go. Miguel,
Hey,
how's it going?
good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
I do. I believe there is a God.
Okay, yeah, and which one, just that way that I can, just so I don't make any wrong assumptions.
There's no particular God I believe in, like in terms of religion, like Muslim or Christianity. I don't believe in any of it. I just believe in theism, that there is a God.
Okay, is it like classical theism, like all good, all powerful, all knowing kind of theism, or is it just like deism, where it's just something that created the universe?
Something that it would be the creator of the universe.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So what would you say is the most compelling argument you could give me that that's a real thing?
Well, before I waste your time, have you heard of the Elliott argument?
I've heard of it. I've never actually had anybody run it because the guy who created it keeps running from me.
Huh. Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna butcher it, but I guess what I would say the reason that I believe there is a God, because the other two options of how the universe was created wouldn't be possible.
What are the other two options?
Yeah, so the other two options, one option is that there's an actual infinity,
Mm-hmm.
and an actual infinity can't exist.
Well, before we go into the reasons why you don't think that these are possible, what's the third option?
So yeah, the other option is that we start from literal absolute emptiness.
And so you say that these are the other two options as opposed to, what's the first option?
That God created the universe.
How do you figure that this is exhaustive? That either you have something that, well, you have like an infinite past, or you have creation from nothing, or you have a God created the universe. How do you figure that that's all of the options?
I haven't heard of another option.
Okay, let me give you one. Suppose that you have a timeless, not eternal, but a timeless, pure spatial universe that has in one of its locations the origins of time. Then it's not coming from, then time isn't starting from nothing, it's starting from a purely spatial universe. There is no eternal past, because the past starts at a certain place rather than at a certain time, and the rest of the universe exists timelessly, and there's no God involved.
So how did that that place of where time originated from, right? Would that be the beginning?
It would be the beginning of time at that place, yeah.
Right. So what? I guess we can't explain what created that beginning of time.
Well, I mean, so you have to view this in like a four-dimensional kind of way, like a four-dimensional space-time kind of way, and you just say that like that's the place. So you have 4 dimensions of space, and then one of those dimensions at a certain place becomes time. It's space up until a certain point, and then it's time after that point. And so there's nothing causing the time to start. That's just the place where or where space becomes time. And so there's not really any causal mechanism required. It's just a place.
But the time would have had to start from something, right?
Yeah, it started. It started at a place. That's just where the first moment of time is.
Right. We can't say we can't ask the question what created that start in time. space?
Well, so the reason why the start in time is there rather than somewhere else is because of the way that the space was next to it, or the way that the space is next to it.
So the space next to it is emptiness?
Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be empty.
Okay. I'm just...
And this is not like some fringe thing. This is something called the like the no boundary proposal for the universe, which was put forward by Stephen Hawking and Jim Hartle. So like this is not like some like random thing that I invented to get around the Elliott argument. This is a thing that's been taken seriously for the last 40 years.
I understand what you're saying, but it just explain to me one more time. Why, like, how could have that beginning of time have started in this space?
Maybe I should. Maybe it would help if I draw a diagram. Let me draw a diagram really quick. Because I think that might help a bit. Let me just do something really quick. Let me pull it up just so then you can see what I'm doing.
Sure.
Where's Paint? MS Paint. There we go. Okay, so we have MS Paint here. I don't know why. Oh, that's so weird. Why isn't MS Paint working? Oh, I don't like that. Let me try to make it. Why is it doing that? Ooh, that's terrible. 1 sec. Don't capture cursor. And then let's just refresh this. Let's pick some capture method. There, much better. Okay. So, so imagine that your space-time is shaped like this. So, kind of like an upside-down dildo of sorts, right?
Okay.
So, up until here, nope, I can't do that. I'm gonna get so banned. This is, but this is seriously how it's typically drawn. So let me actually just draw it as a cone instead, so then it's less sus.
Yeah.
I'll draw it as a square. That's what I'll do. But imagine that it's like, okay, so we have space, and then here,
Okay.
this is space. Space is this way, but then here we have time.
Yep.
And we have space here. So now we have space-time, space, time. And so the idea is that it's all just one big thing. You know, it's just one big thing, right? This whole block is you know, I don't know why yellow's not working. This whole block is just all space-time, or it's our universe. It's just there's a place where there's timeless space, and then a place where that timeless space gives rise to time. But there's no causal mechanism required, because it's just like a particular place as a result of like the way that the space is over here. As a result of the way the space is over here, it necessarily is the case that time must be over here. So there's nothing causal required.
Would a timeless space be empty?
Not necessarily.
Well, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be empty for it to be able to create the start of time.
Nothing's creating anything. There's no creation happening. The start of time wasn't created. It's just a feature of a four-dimensional universe.
Okay, I'm gonna jump on. It's I can't understand. I don't understand.
Okay, that's fine. But I mean, this is, suffice it to say, like the Elliott argument is like famously really bad, and the only reason why people think it looks good, people think he looks good, is because he just yells at people, and he doesn't actually like allow them to make an argument. So
Yeah, it doesn't allow them to actually make an argument. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, sir.
of course, thanks for being here. All right, let's move on to the next guest. For some reason, my TikTok live chat went away. I don't know why, but it's gone and I don't see it anymore. Oh, there it is. I see it now. All right, let's talk to Pablo. Pablo, how's it going?
I'm doing amazing, my friend. I didn't think that you would accept my request.
Yeah.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can, but you might have to talk more slowly. So, do you believe in God?
Yes, absolutely. I believe in God completely, my friend.
Okay, and which God?
Before we continue, are you able to hear me well?
I can hear you, yes. Which God do you believe
Okay,
in?
and also, yeah, I am from Colombia, my friend.
Okay, which God do you believe in?
I believe in just God
Do you
as
believe
the
that
source
Jesus
of
rose
being
from?
of.
Do you believe that Jesus rose from the dead?
That is a very interesting question, my friend. I think that yes, it's perfectly possible that Jesus Christ rise sorry, I'm not very good at English.
Your English is
Yes,
fine.
from that. Okay,
Okay.
thank you, my friend. Thank
So,
you.
what would you say is the best argument you can present me that the God you believe in is real?
Sure, of course, my friend, of course. Right now, I haven't made a complete plantation very well of this theory because I want to do it perfectly when I study philosophy. My dream is to study philosophy to explain my
Mm-hmm.
idea perfectly. So this is my idea, my friend. By any chance, sorry if I feel a little bit nervous. I didn't think that you will do it in front of 500 people. I am a little bit with emotion, excited of this. But let me tell you about this. There is a movie, my friend, named I don't remember it right now very well. Just give me 1 second, please. Just give me 1 second. Mm, mm, just 1 second. Metallica one movie. Yes, yeah. Johnny
Yeah,
got
go
his
ahead.
gun. Johnny got his gun. Sorry. Johnny got his gun. Johnny got his gun. Have you heard about this movie, my friend?
I have not heard about it, no.
Sure, of course. Let me explain you the plot a little bit. This plot explores about a person that went to a war, and in this war he lost everything. He lost all of his limbs, his eyes, his nose, all of these senses.
Well,
Everything.
wait a
He
minute.
has lost
Just
everything.
just to be clear, like, is this going to be an argument for God?
Yes, absolutely,
Then why not
absolutely, my
just give
friend.
me the argument? I probably don't need to know the synopsis of a movie.
Sure, of course, sure, of course. Yes, just give me the. I want to ask you the following question.
Yeah.
What do you define as happiness, my friend? What makes you happy?
Things that I value being achieved.
Okay. What will happen if all of that is completely removed from your existence?
I
If
would
you
be
are just
sad.
a. Okay. And what will happen if you are just a conscious that does not have nothing in front of of all of that? I mean, if
I
you
would be
you
very
just
sad.
okay. And what if your condemnation is just to be completely alone and just complete to be on this state of nothingness at all?
I'd be pretty sad.
Okay, and will be eternal.
I'd be pretty sad, yeah.
Okay, do you know what is a sick that is very similar to the condition that I'm telling you, my friend?
Is it called hell?
Yes, it is called, yes, kinda. The synonym, the synonymity of this sickness will be depression. When
Okay.
you feel depressed, you don't feel nothing, my friend. You are with your partner, you are with your son, you are with your friends, you are with your girlfriend, and you always will feel bad. You always feel sad, doesn't anything likes
So
to
what
you.
does this have to do with God?
Yes, so basically I suffered this disease, depression,
Okay,
completely.
so
And
your
yes.
experiences won't really be particularly interesting to me.
Okay. Yeah, yes. Okay, I understand that. But the thing is that I just reached the conclusion that the only way to be completely happy is that something that is external to you be over you. So when you
Okay,
get this
but
happiness or everything,
that's not how, I don't believe that, so why would I believe in God? Maybe that's why you believe in God and more power to you, but I don't believe that.
yeah, because I just think I just going from the idea that there is only possible to get happiness from nothing that is external because everything in the world is an illusion. It is
I don't
just
think that
very.
everything in the world is an illusion. I think that the world exists.
I think that kinda it's kinda. I mean, you cannot say that the world exists. We can be in a simulation.
I
We
mean,
can't be.
look, if
Everything is
that's your
changed.
position, then how can you know that God exists?
Yes, how can I say that God exists? Because yes, he has presented above the illusion of external reality where everything changed and he has made me happy for
Well, yeah, but
everything,
what if
for
that's an
every
illusion?
external, the external reality.
No, the thing that made you happy.
Yeah, because all of that ends. Everything ends. People die,
How do you
your
know that
friends
that's not an
die.
illusion?
Because it's yes, illusion. It is not an illusion because you see that doesn't finish. That does not finish. I mean, the thing that finish is like a dream. When you awake for a dream, you'll see that everything has finished. You're experimenting the reality. The dream as is complete reality.
It sounds
And
like you're
when you
trying to
awake,
predict the future. Like you're saying, oh, well, it will finish. Like it hasn't, so why should I think that it will?
yeah, that is, just let me think. Let me think. Let me think a little bit. Mm, okay. I mean, because yes, that is basically the idea that we all see. I mean, that everything ends. Friendship ends,
Yeah,
people
but what if that's
die,
an illusion?
governments illusion, because doesn't last. You know, doesn't last. And when
But
something
yeah, but
doesn't last
that's all based on
eternally,
illusions.
it is an illusion. So say again. Say again. Sorry.
All of your evidence that leads you to the conclusion that everything that nothing lasts forever. How do you know that that's not all an illusion?
Because I mean, when I say it is not an illusion, it is. I'm not saying that it is not completely not real. It's just that it is reality very stopping real. I mean, it's like it's a reality that doesn't last for too much, and when a reality
Oh,
doesn't last
okay.
for too much, it's like an illusion.
Well,
Sorry
I
if I
mean, but
didn't
like, okay,
mean very
so
well.
what if reality doesn't last for very long? It's still real. So why can't that bring me happiness?
Okay. Yes, let me think. Let me think of that argument a little bit. Sorry. Yes, because the fact that you know that everything will end means that all the happy moments that you will get in life will end. You know, everything. I mean, you are right now very happy,
Yeah,
and
sure.
you know that it will end. But for example, sorry. And when a depressed person, when a person that is depressed is completely, they will catch the happiness as they always. I mean, like they will get to that happiness at all cost. So basically, when you say that that happiness will disappear, he will live on a complete state of suffering.
So
That
let's
is
say for a moment that like there is no way to achieve happiness. How does that mean, or achieve happiness via the external world? How does that mean a God exists?
because the God is the only one that can provide you happiness,
So,
even in the worst circumstance.
but that just seems like cope, right? It just seems like you're saying, well, maybe I can't achieve happiness in this world, so I'll just believe in a God that so that I can be happy. But like maybe you just can't achieve happiness in this world. Maybe there's just not a way to do that, and God isn't real.
um if I'm completely honest, my friend, if I just follow external things that happen in the world, has pursuing happiness in the external world, I will be die right now because there is no happiness in the world. There is just very last moments of happiness. So when you follow God, you will be eternal happy. Of
Okay,
course, so
Pablo,
like
I'm going to let you go because I don't want to cause your depression to get worse. But thank you for being here, Pablo. By the way, before I let anybody else on, remember, if you like what you're seeing, make sure to like the live, whether you're watching on YouTube, on either of the horizontal or the vertical streams, whether you're watching on TikTok. Liking the live gets it sent out to more people, which means that we are more likely to have more conversations. Also, subscribe, like follow along. If you're watching on YouTube, click the subscribe button, ring the bell, all of these words that you should do, all lovely things that you should definitely be doing. And if you want to support me, there are ways to do it. Super chats are a good way. They'll pop up somewhere around here if you send a super chat. In fact, I should probably read one. There's also, of course, Cash App and Buy Me a Coffee links in various places. Anyway, I do have a super chat to read from Garba Gaiman with the 5 Canuck bucks, sending the Hartle Hawking strap-on. True, it was a bad choice. They drew it poorly. Anyway, let's bring on Brandon. Brandon, how's it going? Brandon? Oh, also there's a Discord server that you should join. Oh, also Nectu, thank you for the $2.
Good. Can you hear me?
I can, but there's an enormous delay. You have to listen to me through the website that you're currently on rather than listening to me through the YouTube video.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
You're good. Brandon, welcome.
So, hi. So, I'll start off. I'm a Christian. I believe in God.
Okay.
But I'm not going to use any Bible references at all in this because it makes no sense since you are not. So,
Great.
I wanted to start off by asking your view on morality.
Yeah. So sorry, just 1 sec. I just got one more super chat from Gretchen with the $3. Horizontal chat declares war on vertical chat. You guys should fight. Right. So my view on morality is that there is some degree of morality that is in some sense hard coded into us via evolution. Things like these very, very kind of primal intuitions we have, like an aversion to like violence being directed towards our family members, like those kinds of things. And then building off of those kind of very primal, very intuitive features of our psychology, the societies that we live in kind of built up, say what you might call moral codes around those. And then my personal morals then developed from my experiences, from perhaps my genetics, perhaps my parents, perhaps my things like that, and led to the creation of a set of values that I hold dear. That's how I come to morality. That's how I understand it.
So you would say your base for the very base of morality would be our evolutionary advantage. For the very primitive forms of morality that we all share. Yeah. So that would be like our belief that, for instance, would you agree that murder is wrong? Comes from that level?
I don't think that phrased that way that's biological in any sense. But I think that like this kind of intuitive kind of physiological response that we get to like seeing a family member like just be like ripped open, that kind of response probably gave rise to the kind of social the social norm of murder being wrong.
Okay. So you would say that murder in and of the claim that murder is wrong is more of a social norm.
Well, I mean, it's a value that I hold.
Even level of primitive. Oh, yeah. No, I'm not saying you don't.
Right.
Let me clarify that.
So what I mean is there are values that we all hold, and I think that probably most people hold the value that murder is wrong. Clearly not everybody does. Okay. Because murderers exist.
That's true.
But I think most people do, and probably because that's a pretty easy conclusion to come to if you already feel disgust from watching murders happen.
Okay. So I wanted to dig into like so you're saying that deep line comes from evolution and our evolutionary survival at the very base. So the ripping our family apart. My question is, wouldn't that also be survival of the fittest at that point? Where
no,
what happens when two morals? Okay, I get what you're saying now. Okay, I understand where you're coming from now. You know, one thing I do appreciate about you is that you are very thoughtful on these topics and that you actually have thought through them. Yeah, I believe obviously it comes from God, but my thought is I don't see the way I see evolution in my perspective is from morality. If I was in your perspective, I would see it more as what's beneficial to the species, which so I've never heard this argument from an atheist before. So it's actually interesting to hear this from this perspective.
Yeah, so I wouldn't even go as far as to say that it's what's beneficial for the species. I would say that as a social species, the intuitions and the instincts that we have were developed to give us intuitions and sorry, I repeat myself, give us intuitions and instincts to protect our small community, right? Humans, even going back hundreds of thousands of years, humans have lived in like small bands of like 100 people or less. And so, but because the people in your band were closely related to you, ensuring that everybody in your small band survived meant that your genes were more likely to be passed on, even if they weren't directly coming from you. They were coming from someone closely related to you. And so you can get a lot of moral intuitions that way if you're just thinking about how do I protect the 100 people closest to me.
Okay. Well, then let me ask you this, get a little. It's a little. I'm gonna say it in. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna spell it out with a little asterisk, so that way you don't get demonetized or anything.
Sure.
What about R asterisk PE?
We say grape on TikTok. Well, no. So not necessarily. So there's a few things here. First, the whole business of that thing on people that are close to you, well, that would fall in line of, well, I don't want to see harm come to the people who are close to me, right? So it makes sense that we have an intuition that we think that that's wrong towards people that are close to us, like, you know, those nearest 100 people or so. But secondly, the kinds of intuitions that we develop are the kinds of intuitions that have very, very strong that are either in response to very, very strong survival pressures or significantly increased survival chances. But a given instance of grape doesn't like the odds of a given grape giving rise to a pregnancy is not very high. And so the genetic benefits from that, you can say that there's genetic benefits 500,000 years ago or whatever, are just not big enough that we would expect to see psychological changes over such a short period of time as humans have been developing.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. And I want to make it clear, I do not support that. I'm just making it clear that, yeah.
Well, I should say, I don't think most people do. Obviously, some people do.
Yeah. It's sad, but yes.
I agree.
I had one other question. You actually answered that very clearly and concisely, which I appreciate. I had one other question. It was dealing with a question you had earlier with the space-time. So were you saying that when that space-time argument you were making earlier, that there was no causality behind the beginning of that it was a necessary mechanism within space that I'm not trying to find the word for it, that caused space-time to come into existence? Or how do you explain that without cause?
So you have to think of it four-dimensionally, three-dimension, or like we usually think of like space as being three-dimensional and time being one-dimensional, so we have 4 dimensions. But if all you have is, if you're just thinking of the whole four-dimensional thing, then there can be properties of that four-dimensional thing, which is like partially space, partially time, where the way that what time is just a different way that space can be. And so if your space is a certain way, well, we don't think that, like, you know, spaces cause other spaces. We just think of the spaces as just existing, right? And so all I'm saying is that it could just be the case that there's just this whole space-time thing, and this first moment of time is just there because that's what the spaces next to it required. In the same way that, like,
so you would say,
yeah, go ahead.
So you would say that the spaces next to it requiring. So you're saying time began without a cause completely is the claim that we're making. That
so the way to think about it is that,
even though it has
like,
a beginning, it has no cause.
Right. So the way to think about it would just be that, like, time is just like a kind of way that space can be. Think of it as being like space curved in a weird way. Well, if the space right next to the first moment of time is curved ever so slightly less than the necessary amount to get you to having space, and you have just like a smooth change in like the curvature of, not change over time, but just like a smooth gradient in the curvature of space. So like to the left you have like no curvature, to the right you have a little bit more curvature, to the right you have even a little bit more curvature, and then the curvature is just gets bigger as you move further to the right until it gets to a certain point where the curvature is enough that the space is no longer space, it's time. Well, you wouldn't say that the time was caused. So that's just kind of like what the space was doing, right?
I get what you're saying. Okay.
It's definitely counterintuitive, but it's something that people take seriously.
It really is. It is. And I might be a Christian, but I actually love science and I love morality and I love all these different concepts. And I think it's a great benefit to society to be able to talk through these with people with different ideas, because I learned something new today from that.
I'm glad. Anything else you want to talk about?
Okay, I don't have any other. No, I just appreciate the chance to talk with you and actually pick your brain on those two topics, because I hadn't heard those perspectives before.
Well, sounds good, man. Thanks for being here, Brendan. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring up another guest. Did I get any? No, I didn't get any super chats. Yeah, so the Discord, it's like free to join, obviously. There are links in the description on YouTube if you're watching there. There's also links in the link tree in my bio on TikTok, but you'll just have to copy and paste the link. Clicking on the link doesn't seem to work for whatever reason. Meatforge, how's it going?
It's going really well, actually. I've been a casual fan for quite a while.
Casual fan, you say? Does that mean?
Yeah, I mean,
does that imply the existence of competitive fans?
I suppose so.
Anyway, do you believe in God?
Yes, but there are caveats, and I know your next question is, which God do I believe in?
That is my next question. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm an experiential monist. So like I kind of think all things are one big thing. So I guess technically my definition of God would just be kind of all of us, if that makes sense. But I do mean it also literally, not metaphorically.
So do you think that there is some sort of entity separate from physical reality that is responsible for either sustaining or creating physical reality?
Yes, because I don't believe that physical. I'm not a materialist. I'm not like a physicalist.
Well, but so I'm using physical reality to be whatever it is that we, that we experience, and that like I call this like a milk bottle, or like protein shake or whatever, and like whatever, like this is some sort of thing, whatever ontology you ascribe it.
Sure.
It's some sort of thing. And so when I say physical reality, just think of like the collection of all of the things that like a materialist would call physical reality, perhaps. You might call it the universe or whatever. So would you say that there's something separate from that is responsible for all of that other stuff?
Separate technically, but not physically separate, I guess. The way I think of it is that consciousness, probably, because I'm a consciousness primary person, I do believe that it's kind of shared between people. There's no like evidence of this, but more so this is all just because of phenomenology and qualia and things of that nature. The way I ascribe God would just be the collective, all of the material and immaterial of the universe. So kind of like chaos meets. Oh, sorry. I'm actually in a very big echoey office, is why I'm echoing.
That's okay.
Like that. Hold on. Let me move to another room. I might get some better audio.
It's fine. Your audio is really not that. Like,
oh, okay.
I didn't really notice anything.
There's some carpet in this room. It should be a little better.
Okay.
Okay.
But so look, so I hate to be that guy, but it seems like it's just like the version of God that you believe in is just like it seems like it's not really compatible with like theism. Would that be correct?
Maybe. I have actually struggled with this as well. With exactly what you're saying, that it's kind of I used to be a hardline atheist, and now I was introduced to idealism, and I couldn't solve the hard problem of qualia. What do you think then would constitute a god or a separate being, then something that's outside of just like experience, ideas, and apparent physical reality? Like I guess that doesn't really make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me either. That's why I'm an atheist.
That's fair. So then maybe I'm an atheist, and it's just a semantical argument. Then in that case,
I mean, look, if you're like what is it, a panpsychist, or
right,
like an idealist, that's compatible with atheism. Like you can be those things and be atheist as well.
Okay.
So I wouldn't go as far as to say that that you believe in God necessarily. Maybe that's just the word that you like to use for it. But yeah, it's
fair
just
enough.
Like there's a whole conversation to be had about idealism, but it's not the conversation that I'm going to have today. So I'm going to let you go.
Got it. All right, that's totally fine.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
From Yol Girl with the 14 Canuck bucks, I'm not a casual fan. I'm a formal fan. A formal fan. Good point. That is an alternative to a competitive or ranked fan. Although I would say that currently, as it stands, horizontal fans are beating the vertical fans. I don't know why, I'm just saying. One, how's it going?
Hello.
You doing all right? I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing fine.
Okay. Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Okay. And which God would that be?
Just God. Just God.
So one, how old are you?
23.
Okay. And you say just God, do you mean Do you think that Jesus rose from the dead? Do you think that...
No.
Do you think that Muhammad was a prophet? Do you think that God is all-knowing?
All-knowing, yes.
Okay. So all-knowing, do you think that God is all-powerful?
Yes, I do.
Do you think that God is all-loving or all-good?
Not necessarily, no. Not in the way that I would interpret it. I think like he understands things the way I can understand. So like whatever is planned, I can't like view it in my own like human sense and justify it that way, if that makes sense.
Sure. Okay. And so what would you say, and do you think that this being created the universe, right?
I think he did, but it's also in the process. It's like, it's not like it didn't stop. It's still evolving, if that makes sense. Like it's still like growing, changing. So
well, yeah. But like this being created the universe, it was like the originator of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe he's also part of it too, if that makes, yeah.
Well, I don't think you want to say that, because a thing can't be part of a thing if it created the thing.
Okay. I mean,
because things can't create themselves, right?
Okay, maybe not create. I mean, can things change themselves? Like, let's say
things can change themselves, absolutely, but things can't create themselves.
Okay, maybe not create. Maybe he is kind of, here and eternally here, changing and everything. So maybe not like create, not like in the biblical sense, the way it's said, like let there be light. No, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, and so what would you say is the best argument for this being existing?
Okay, I feel like one of those arguments would be that, well, when you kind of look around you, you kind of realize, well, maybe I don't have like all the answers, but it all seems like it's going somewhere. I remember like from the previous person who spoke, there was like a question of morality, and you kind of said that, well, our morality came from the fact that we had these instincts that were trying to preserve the species, and basically we kind of developed it on top of that. Yeah. And so my question, I guess, would be like, why is like life trying to, like, why is life like trying as hard as it can to not go back to chaos, if that makes sense? Like, why is it preserving itself? Like,
why? Well, if it didn't preserve itself, then the ones that did, the life that did preserve itself would outlive it.
Exactly, but why are they trying to live? That's like the question.
Because if they didn't, so imagine that you have two organisms, one organism that's trying to live and one organism that's not trying to live. The one that's not trying to live will just die, and the one that is trying to live will be less likely to die. So the one that's trying to live will be more likely to pass on its genes.
No, I understand that part. The part I'm trying to say is, like, why is there life to begin with? Like,
that's a separate question. You're asking why there's life? Well, I think life is just a thing that happens via chemistry.
Yes, but
and I don't think that there's any purpose for it. I think it's just a thing that happens. Yeah.
Oh, it's just a thing that happens? But what, like, with no why, you...
Yeah, I don't think that there's a purpose.
No, not like a purpose, like in a way that we humans understand, like something to serve us. But maybe, I don't know, have you watched, what is it called? Arcane?
I haven't, but it's on my to-do list.
Okay, there is like this line about that evolution probably also has a purpose. Like, it's always evolving towards like maybe a perfect being, if that makes sense. Do you think like AI will become conscious or something? Because right now,
I don't know, but I don't think that evolution is heading towards a perfect being.
You don't think so?
No, that's not a good description of what evolution is doing. Evolution is a process by which things either die or they change sufficiently so that they're just good enough to not die.
So like a survival of the fittest kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the life that survives is usually the fittest. So a perfect being would be one that would probably not need to die anymore, or like.
So we should instead say survival of the least unfit.
Okay, sure. but the most fit obviously gets further than
Yeah,
those
but like, there's no guarantee that the most fit will ever show up, or the most fit will ever evolve by chance, right?
Wait, why not?
Well, because the actual changes are generally random, right? Like the changes are typically a result of random mutation, and so there's no guarantee that you'll ever get the most fit.
Wait, do you think that randomness really exists, or do you think the universe is?
I mean, it's so I mean random in the sense that it's like not chosen
by us.
Yeah, you could say that like we can't calculate it, and that it's not chosen, it's not intentional. But and so that kind of precludes the conversation about determinism, which we don't need. Like we can either have it or not. But the point is that just because you have a selection mechanism that weeds out the things that are least fit, doesn't mean that that selection mechanism will pick the most fit thing. It just means that it'll get rid of the things that are least fit.
But it also kind of does imply that it's the fittest thing. I mean, not in the sense that I would predict it, because if I were to predict like what's the fittest, obviously I would be wrong. But it is kind of the most fit in the sense that like the very fact that it survived means it was probably.
It means that it was good enough, not that it was the best, just that it was good enough.
Yeah, I really agree with that, because I feel like, but what I'm trying to say, like the end goal, like would it not be a way better being than the previous? I mean, if you
better
compare,
in what
like,
sense? I mean, look, so the reason why evolution happens is because like the environment changes, situations change. So it could be that something that is very well adapted to one environment will suddenly find itself very poorly adapted when the environment changes.
Okay, true. And now I think that, okay, I'm gonna give a description of what I think the best being would be for this. So I would say it in the sense of like which creature can control its environment, not just like react to it, right? So like there are bacteria that when they detect, I think, is it sugar? All they will do is just like move towards it. But if you look at humans who are more complex, now we like grow food and stuff like that. So we have a little bit of more control of our environments, right? And so I'm thinking like intelligence kind of gives us that advantage. So I'm thinking an even greater being is one that completely is in control of its environment.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that such a thing would ever evolve.
I mean, there is an example which is us, and we're just like a step block in the process of evolution. So, like in the long term, don't you think this being could probably be godlike?
No, I don't. I mean, what you're describing is a powerful alien. But you know, if it's subject to evolution, then it still lives, it still dies, etc. Right?
Well, yes, but I was thinking the perfect evolution would not need to die or change anymore, if that makes sense. And the reason, okay, do you believe like that AI will ever be smarter than people?
I don't know.
Okay, because for me, my description of a god, I guess, would be a perfect being, and I would think he would be all knowing and probably be everywhere, so he would now not necessarily need a physical.
I don't think that you can have a biological organism, or even, I don't think that you can have any organism, whether biological or not, that is everywhere.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking not biological, because
I don't even think that you can have like a digital organism that is everywhere, or like a robotic organism. Like I don't even think that makes sense. I don't think it makes sense to say that something exists everywhere.
Okay, it's more in the sense of you know, like intelligence can exist like this, not connected like to the matter. Are you, like?
No, I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah, I mean,
why would anybody ever think that?
An example is like in the what?
Why would anyone ever think that?
Well, I mean, we do have like computers which are Turing like complete machines, and they can.
And those are connected to matter.
True, but matter is everywhere, like, isn't it?
I mean, not really. Like there's gaps between the matter in space, right?
Well, is with okay, I'm not really good at physics, so I'll probably have to look into that. What about antimatter? But I'm not sure.
And as far as we know, there's not really any antimatter out there in the universe.
Okay. So, okay, I guess my argument for God would be that, like, just who we are and what we're evolving to, I think he can see God through us, if that makes sense.
So you're just saying that, well, look at us,
and
therefore God?
It's not just look at us, therefore God. It's more of, I do think evolution probably does have a purpose, if that makes sense.
Why?
Well, why? Well, obviously the purpose is not human oriented, but because it's a process, and I believe that the universe is deterministic. I don't think it's completely random. I think it's only random because we don't understand, like, we can't quantify everything, so it really looks random to us. So I do believe that this entire process is determined, so I think it's going somewhere if it came from somewhere. I just don't know what or where, if that makes sense.
Sure, but suppose that it is determined, so that the future is already determined. Well, how does that mean a God exists?
Well, if it's determined, like, what made it determinable in the first place?
Determined doesn't mean that, like, someone determined it. It just means that, like, the laws of physics are rigid enough that you could figure out what the future will be like given the way the present is.
Yeah, but why are the laws of physics one way and not another way?
That's a really good question.
We don't have an answer?
Yep, we don't have an answer. But not having an answer doesn't mean God, right?
Okay, yeah, sure. No God of the gaps. It was an interesting conversation. I just wanted to.
Yeah, fair enough. Thanks for being here, One.
Thanks.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, we have some super chats, some cash apps, some buy me a coffees to read. So we have $15 from Peter on buy me a coffee. Get some coffee, the lifeblood of us all. I will get some coffee after the live stream's over. Don't you worry. We have $30 on cash app from Shay for feral fan. Yeah, so they're casual fans and feral fans, apparently. We have 5 British pounds from the, is this the vertical stream? I don't actually know which stream this is from. Oh no, this is the vertical stream. Vertical stream's not going so hard. We have 5 British pounds from Joe Lonsdale. Evolution can only lead to perfect for the environment, never perfect, because perfect requires context. Perfect for what? Yeah, that was kind of what I was trying to get at. That's roughly the idea. And then we have several super chats from the horizontal stream. Good job, horizontal stream. We have $2 from Arpy. Thank you for sparing us of that qualia drivel. Yeah, the qualia stuff is just not so interesting to me. We have $10 from Charlie's Digital Adventures. Support Dr. Blitz. Yeah, you should do that. This is a thing that more people should do. And then $2 from Oren Pacht. Survival of the just barely fit enough to not die. True. Yeah, that's what evolution is. And then $2 from Ivan. Time-independent quantum wave fans for the win. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you got to be a quantum wave function monist. All right, anyway, let's bring on another guest. Let us do it. Oh, we have a guest on YouTube, in fact. Michelle, how's it going? Michelle? 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 Michelle?
Hi, sorry.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, but you have to turn off the live stream and then just listen to me through the website.
Okay, so go off of YouTube.
Yeah, and just open up the website and just keep that open.
Okay.
Can you hear me all right?
Okay. I can hear you, yes.
Great. Okay, you said that you have a great debate, so do you believe in God?
I believe in something. So, okay, let me go outside because I want to actually get into this.
Sure.
Appreciate you for allowing me to join. Okay, so I like where this topic is going, and I'm excited to put my input.
But I do have to, so I do have to know if you believe in God.
Okay.
Right? Like, I need to know if you believe in God,
Yeah,
because if not, then we're just going to go nowhere.
No, so I do. So I grew up Catholic.
Okay.
I was kind of like forced to go to church. But then I would go to like a Christian church in high school. And I was like, am I an atheist? Because like, how do I believe all this stuff? Like, who is telling me this? Like, who, like, I like to see and believe something. So that's when I actually believe in. And anyway, so I started to get a little spiritual a few years ago, and so I was believing like in the universe, in like a higher power. And so I think that as long as you believe in like some kind of God, because there's Allah, there's other types of gods that other people believe in. So I think whenever they say that there's like an instruction of way of life or something, just like there's a recipe or like a user manual, I believe that like even I would like to I've created a finance course and stuff like that. So I
No
believe
free
there are
clout.
like ways of life. Excuse me?
No free clout. No shilling.
No, 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 no. No, please, no, not at all.
But right, so
I
so
would not
Michelle, what
send
is
you
the
to my
what
ex's
is
business.
what is the God that you believe in?
What do you mean by that? Like, what
Okay,
does that mean?
what properties does it have? Is it all powerful?
Whoa. Define powerful, because I would
Can
like
it
to get
do
into this, but I
everything
want to
logically
fully
possible?
understand.
Can it do anything logically possible?
It can. I think we can all do anything logically
Well,
possible
no, I mean it's
if
logically
we
possible for me to
try.
fly, but I can't fly, right?
You could skydive.
That's not flying. It's logically possible. There's no logical
True, it's
contradiction in me
falling.
flapping my wings, flapping my arms, and flying like a bird.
Of course.
But I can't do that because
Okay.
it's not physically possible. But there's a difference between physically and logically possible. Okay, do you think that this thing has a mind, has a will?
Well, that's like saying like a transgender. Like, does it have a vagina or like a penis? Like, it's not actually.
The fuck? What? Where the fuck did that come from? What? Completely out of left field. Anyway, we have some super chats. From Shadow Slaves with the $5. Please, not another manic pixie crystal rubbing tarot card spirituality based on vibes backed by trust me bro evidence. That seems like where it was going anyway. So I'm glad that they, revealed the weird transphobe stuff. And then from Gretchen with the $3, again, coming in from the horizontal chat, long live horizontal. Vertical, you really got to step it up. Red Rover, send X from Bubba on over. All right, let's bring on a guest from YouTube. Let's bring on, I feel like I've talked to Skim Electricity before, but Skim, have we spoken before?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to join.
Oh, you're good. By the way, the competition between vertical and horizontal, those are on YouTube. If you're on TikTok, you guys are winning anyway. Like you're winning by sheer numbers, if not by donations, but that's fine because TikTok takes like 40% of it anyway, so don't worry about that. But yeah, TikTok, we have 530 people watching. YouTube vertical, we have 126 people watching. And YouTube horizontal, we have 250 people watching. So, horizontal, they're just killing it, the horizontalists. Verticalists really got to step it up, got to like that live, got to share it and stuff like that. You just got to step it up. Yeah, Cash App also works. Cash App sends everything my way, which I appreciate, Shay. All right, it seems like Chasam is not connecting. Let's talk to Jojo. If you want me horizontal, you got to at least buy me some dinner. Fair point. Fair point.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, Jojo. How's it going?
Okay. I think you can ask the questions about believing in God and stuff like that up front.
Well, yeah. Do you believe in God?
Yeah, I think it's like I have an above 50% credibility in that, or however you say it.
Credence is the word you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, credence.
And which God is that you believe in?
I think the largest would be the Christian God.
Okay.
I was raised Catholic, and just Christianity sort of appeals to me more than other ones. It's universal. It has a weird ethics which are less likely to be invented by just, human mind, stuff like that. But I think it's just general, theism. There is some sort of God with a mind who wants people to exist, other minds, stuff like that.
Okay. Right, sure. So what would you say is the most compelling evidence you have, or most compelling argument, rather?
I think for me, there's a couple. The first one was the fine-tuning argument for me, which I've seen some counter-arguments which make sense to me. I think the one which I heard about was the electrons in love counter-argument, but
that's a pretty powerful response in my view.
Yeah, I haven't heard about it too much. And then there was the psychophysical harmony one, which really depends on, you know, what you believe about the mind. Are you a physicalist, or if you
I'm some
believe
kind
in
of
dualism?
physicalist, yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about when somebody confronts you with the fine-tuning argument, is your response just the electrons in love argument, or do you have some sort of more necessitary in it?
So I take a lot of different, I think that there's a lot of issues with fine-tuning, or a lot of different, we could call them attack vectors, if you will. Okay. So first is similar to the electrons in love. Namely, if God is only interested in minds, and I'm just summarizing for everybody who's listening. If God's only interested in minds, and minds are not necessarily attached to bodies, because of course, God's mind isn't attached to a body, so he could make minds not be attached to bodies, then why couldn't he just make electrons be around and have them have all of the experiences that we require? Fine. So that seems like a problem. There's a secondary problem, namely, suppose, for example, that it is the case that our universe is fine-tuned, and suppose that God, for some reason, with some motivation, wanted to produce life that's something like ours, right? Maybe not like electron life or whatever, but something like ours. Well, still, the range of possible values that he could have chosen that would lead to that would lead to that outcome is still enormously large. It's much smaller than the total possible range of values that could just give rise to any universe. But the range of possible values that could give rise to life like ours is enormously large. And in fact, if the alternative hypothesis is that these constants are necessary, well then the constants being what they are is actually more well explained by necessity than it is by a divine being selecting them, because we still don't have an explanation under the God hypothesis as to why he specifically chose these constants rather than some other similar constants. So there is an issue there that it just doesn't have the explanatory power of the necessity hypothesis.
Okay, yeah.
And then of course we can't rule out a multiverse either. So it seems like that there's just a lot of different ways that the fine-tuning argument just, like, it's a good it's generally like a valid argument, but I think that there's a lot of questions that it leaves unopened, or that it leaves unanswered, that should be pushed on.
Sure, yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those arguments which is pretty powerful on its face, and people don't really give it the credit it deserves. It's sort of like dismissed out of hand. And I think for the electrons in love counter argument, it's a pretty powerful one. I feel like there would be some defenses there. Like you have, I don't know, Berkeley believing that we really are just minds, just electrons, and everything we experience is just, you know, God's idea, stuff like that.
But I think there's no constants at all. So then the fine-tuning argument doesn't work.
But then in the second one, what was the second one? You picked like various different constants. I think
necessity is more predictive than a divine selector.
I think the second one was, you know, even if the constants are fine-tuned, even if they are, you know, probabilistic, there's a bunch of different constants which would still allow for life. I think
still allow for life like ours, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that still doesn't work because the fine-tuned ones would still be pretty small. It's still, you know,
no, I acknowledge that. That's not the argument. The point is yes, the range of fine-tuned ones is smaller than the full range, but the range of necessary ones is smaller still. And so the necessary, like if you take the necessary hypothesis and compare it with the divine selector hypothesis, the necessary hypothesis predicts these constants more accurately than the divine selector does.
So the necessary hypothesis would be basically saying that we don't know why the constants are the way they are, but we can assume that they're necessary. There's no other way that the universe could have been.
Right.
And it's just the only way that anything could be. And maybe in the future, you know, we find out that this is why there's some reason. It's maybe they all stem from something like, you know, Euler equation 1, 0.
Yeah, or some geometric thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's possible, but I don't know if it resolves the fine-tuning argument, because there are some sort of analogies which I find sort of compelling. Like, for example, let's say we're in the 200s BC.
Sure.
And we're thinking about pi. And pi is a necessary number.
Yep.
And then I think, let's say I'm like a Homeric, I believe in like the Greek gods. And then I say, well, pi is necessary. There's no other way it could be. But then I was calculating these numbers of pi out. And if you write them down in base 26 or however many letters the Greek alphabet had, they actually spell out perfectly this Homeric hymn to Apollo. So that's like super unexpected, I think you would say. Like
it is unexpected, but if it's necessary, if it just follows from axioms, then that's just how it had to be, right? If it follows from, say, the geometric axioms, then that's just how it had to be. There's no option.
But I feel like that is sort of biting the bullet. For example, let's say pi, let's say the digits spell out the New Testament. Just like it's impossible, but you know, you can just imagine it epistemically. Let's say you spell out the New Testament. I feel like it's a little, you're sort of biting the bullet on there. Some people might say, well, if they did spell out the New Testament, even if pi is necessary, that's some evidence for Christianity being true, right?
Well, but look, so if it's genuinely true that pi is necessary, then all that means is that like maybe there's some other, maybe Christianity is also true, maybe like Jesus rose from the dead or whatever, but there cannot be an alternative explanation for pi being what it is if it's necessary, right?
But then, like, pi is definitely necessary, right?
That's arguable, but I'm willing to grant it. I mean, it depends on what you mean by circles, right? Like you could have different geometries where pi is different, but
yeah, but like
sure.
in
standard Euclidean geometry, yes, pi is absolutely necessary. Yeah,
exactly. But then it feels like a really big bullet to bite to just say, if something is necessary and it also spells out the entire Bible or like the New Testament, it's not proof of Christianity at all. Especially if it's something like the whole Bible. It's like 26 to the however many letters there are in the Bible. And then furthermore...
So the analogy fails. I mean, it's a close analogy, but it does fail at one key point, which is namely that the existence of life doesn't necessarily point to the existence of a God, right? That's a post hoc rationalization. Whereas the existence of the New Testament, like in the New Testament, it says God is real, right? Like that's like in there. And so the analogy breaks down a bit because all we're saying is that, like, look, it could be the case that the constants are necessary, and one of the consequences of the constants being necessary is that it happens to be that life of this particular kind is possible. And that might be like strange and weird, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there was some intent behind it, right?
Of course. I think the one thing that I'm trying to get at is, for example, with the constants being necessary and ad hoc explanations, it's not really saying that there must definitely be a God, but it should still be like raising your credence. Like, let's say I tell you right now, the cosmological constant, base 26, whole New Testament, like no errors. Sure. Would you seriously say that, like, this doesn't raise my credence in Christianity at all? It's just
it may very well. It may very well. Yeah, like if it was that would probably raise my credence. Absolutely, I would want to know how we got that high precision on it. But yeah, it would definitely raise my credence. The point is so maybe I'll give a counter analogy. Suppose, for example, that I grow up in a society where we really value the number 1,415 for whatever reason, right? That's the society that I grow up in, and so I really value that. And then I go and I learn that in base 10, pi is 3.1415, and then more stuff afterwards. I'd be like, sure. That must mean that my society got it right, that our religious beliefs are true. Well, not really. It just means that we ascribed value to something that happens to show up in nature. We ascribe value to life that happens to show up in nature.
Sure. But one thing there is, I would say it should raise your probability a little bit, but then the prior probability of your numbers-based religion, it's not as credible as, something like, the prior is not as credible as just, a supreme mind existing, and the posterior, after just 4 numbers, is not as, realistic as the whole Bible being in pi. So
yeah,
for example,
so I mean,
let's say
like
you worship-
it was an analogy of kind, not of degree. Of course, like maybe like maybe like, obviously like the credence wouldn't be the same, but I was just illustrating it to indicate that, like, yes, like there is a way that you could value something that is unrelated to the reason why the thing is the way it is. By the way, there's also the possibility that the reason why, like, imagine an alternative scenario where the way that the society came to like the number 1415 is somehow connected back to the value of pi in base 10. Well, then the causal relation could be the other direction, right? For example, if the universe were deterministic, and if the universe were deterministic and the constants were necessary, then it would actually necessarily follow that somehow the New Testament being written was determined by the constants, rather than it being a coincidence that that the constants match the New Testament. It would just be determined by the constants.
Definitely. But one thing is that the fine-tuning argument is less of an argument for Christianity or something like that. Like, it would be much different if, for example, the constants actually spelled out, the New Testament, in which case I don't think you could argue that.
Yeah, I would probably be a Christian. Like, I'd probably be a Christian. Like, I probably would be.
But I feel like that sort of implies that the necessitarian position isn't as like, it maybe diffuses the argument a little bit, but it's still, there's something here to be explained.
So I think the power of the necessitarian argument is that it points out that even if you can somehow come up with a way of explaining why God would want life like ours, you still have a fine-tuning problem. Why did God pick these constants rather than the other constants in the range of constants that would allow for life like ours? Right?
Of course.
Because that's still a continuum of possible values. He had to pick one.
Definitely.
The probability is still very tiny.
For example, yeah, but I think there's an analogy there as well with, let's say you're like in the forest, in the wilderness, or let's say you time travel like 5,000 years in the past, you find a digital watch, okay? Yep. And then you tell your friend, oh, somebody made this. And then your friend says, well, if somebody made it, why did they make this exact digital watch? Why couldn't it have been some other digital watch? Why is it like a Casio and not some sort of digital, I don't know any other digital brands.
Sure.
But it's just still the fact that it is fine-tuned, even if there could have been other fine-tuned explanations, is still some evidence for somebody wanting the fine-tuned result to be there, as opposed to a non-fine-tuned result.
By the way, I just have to interrupt. If you are hearing really loud noise, it's because it's pouring where I am. Like, it just started dumping rain. Like,
it's not. We can hear you like clearly. It's
like, oh no, it's hailing. I'm sorry, it's hailing. Babs, it's hailing outside. I mean, I think on TikTok there's probably a lot of noise. So
it's pretty. You're pretty like we can hear you. There's no. It's not interrupting the.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, we can hear it, like.
So now you're saying, well. Okay. So the argument that, sorry, I was thinking about the weather. The argument that you were saying is that, well, if you find a Casio watch, you still need to explain why there's a Casio watch and not like a Rolex or something, or you still need to explain why there's a watch there at all rather than a Rolex. And I would say yes, but my point is that if that's your issue, if your issue is, oh, well, why is, I mean, you could equally well say, well, why is there technology? But it was a watch, and it's not just any watch, it's a Casio. And now you don't have an explanation for that. So, like, why? It seems like we're just pushing the explanatory power back. Like, we don't know why. We still have no explanation.
Like, we find a watch, and I say, oh, somebody built this. And you say, well, that's not real. The watch is not evidence of somebody building it, because it could have been a car. But if it was a car, I would still say, oh, why is there a car? It would be more like
This kind of it's like I see what you're saying. It's kind of a conflation with like the watchmaker argument, which is namely like the reason why we would say somebody built the watch is because we know what watches are, right?
Sure, yeah.
So like,
I mean,
but like if you let's use a more neutral example. Let's say that you go back in time 5,000 years and you see like a blob in like an amorphous shape, and then you say, oh well, look at that blob. It's so amorphously shaped. It must have had a cause. And I'm like, well, really? Like you think that somebody you think that somebody must have made it that way when it just seems like an amorphous blob to me. Like it could have been a whole bunch of different amorphous blobs. It doesn't seem like any one of them would have been particularly designed or particularly made that way. Like you're just saying that things need causes, and I would generally. Yeah, go ahead.
The blob there, I think, would be an example of something that's not fine-tuned. Like if we see something like a blob, or you point out to.
Well, I'm using a blob as an example of something that we don't know what we don't know anything about. So maybe it's like something falls from space, and it's like maybe it's designed, maybe it's not, maybe it's natural. We just don't know.
Sure. Well, to get back to your argument, you're saying that we have a fine-tuned, like this universe may well be fine-tuned. There's other fine-tuned universes which permit life. If I saw any of those, we would say, oh, well, that wasn't fine-tuned. If we saw a non-fine-tuned universe, we would say, oh, that's not fine-tuned. There's like rocks, or it just blew up into atoms which don't form molecules or anything like that, or even it's just protons, electrons, nothing's connected anywhere. But then if I saw any of the other fine-tuned universes, let's say a universe where we don't have human intelligence, we have some sort of other alien intelligence, some other kind of life, but it's still only like 0.0001% of the universes, it would still be fine-tuned, just because that would still be one of those tiny amount of, for example, let's say you're...
So I'm not saying that, so the whole point of the necessitarian argument is not to say that the universe isn't fine-tuned. It's to say that a designer is not necessarily the best explanation for the fine-tuning.
Of course, but if you take a necessitarian argument, the pi example is just to show that epistemically, there are still things here that we don't know. For example, like, however many digits of pi we already know, the next ones might be, I don't know, whatever, Bible or something.
Yep.
It would still be really weird epistemically to us. We would need to say, oh, well, it's a little, like if they do spell out the Bible, it's a little weird.
So it's not a great example because we kind of actually expect every string of text to be findable in pi.
No, sorry, I meant like the next, I don't mean like, of course there's going to be the Bible in there, but like in some weird location, like 200 BC, and it's like the first however many base 26 digits of pi.
Sure.
But I think the necessitarian argument basically says it must be this way, which I think just sort of takes it for granted there's no explanation. It's basically, random,
well,
like
no,
pi.
I mean, so typically, if something is necessary, there is an explanation. It's just kind of self-explanatory, right? So we wouldn't say that pi doesn't have an explanation for why it is what it is. We would just say that pi is what it is because of how it's defined.
Yeah, by definition.
Like pi is, by definition, it's the ratio of the circumference to the diameter, and you can just calculate that, and you always get the same number. So that would be an explanation. If it's genuinely necessary, we would have an explanation, and that explanation would tell us why it's those numbers.
One thing is, I feel like if we found something super weird in a number we think is necessary, but isn't, actually necessary, like the cosmological constant, we say, oh, this must be necessary. There's no other way for it to be. And then we find something super weird about it. We don't know, like, the whole Bible, or it just spells out made by God, made by God, and then like a prayer. Then we might say, I thought this was necessary, but either it's not necessary or it's based on something necessary, like, I don't know, God's mind, So, and then with
I can actually give you an olive branch here. So what is the case? So the reason why this necessitarian argument I think is interesting, and I don't hear it talked about a lot, but the reason why I think it's interesting is because it relies on the degree of fine-tuning that we have in the universe. So it is the case that our universe, that our universe at least naively appears fine-tuned, but not like so fine-tuned that like if you had a trillion universes that you wouldn't get a universe like this. Like you know, if you had like a whole bunch of universes, then you would expect to get something like this. So it's pretty fine-tuned, but not like ultimately fine-tuned, right? Yeah, it depends on the probability distribution. But anyway, bear with me. However, the point is that the necessitarian argument gets weaker as the degree of fine-tuning gets stronger. Because the reason why the necessitarian argument works is because it says, look, under the necessitarian view, you predict precisely these values. Under the designer view, you only predict, you know, a range of these values. But if the smaller that range gets, the less you need the necessitarian explanation. So if it were the case that the universe was so finely tuned that you found the Bible in like the first, you know, that you found the full text of the Bible in like the first 10,000 digits of pi in base 26, well, then the fine-tuning might be strong enough that actually the necessitarian argument just doesn't hold as much weight anymore, because the fine-tuning is so precise that there's not really a question of what other values God could have chosen, right? It had to be these ones.
Of course. But I feel like one thing you're getting at there is that the necessitarian argument is basically saying, yeah, these constants were chosen epistemically. Like, for all we know, they're random, but they're necessary, and this is not impossible. It's about, you know, it's more likely or about as likely as theism, because this range in which they could be, you know, necessarily, is large enough for us to say, well, God is a pretty big commitment. It's like 1 in a million of some sort of mind existing. The possibility of these constants being necessarily in this range is a bit larger than that, so it's more likely that they're just necessary.
Yeah.
Just like, for example, you know, 300 BC, and I bet you, oh, the next 100 characters of fire are going to be a prayer to God. You might say, 100 characters? I feel like my credence in God possibly existing is like less than even that, less than even like this prayer randomly being defined.
So for what it's worth, I mean, the fine-tuning argument does fail. It just falls on its face in front of the low priors argument, right? Like if your priors are sufficiently low, then no amount of fine-tuning will get you there. That's obviously the case.
I feel like that's true for every argument. If it's like,
well, yeah, but my point is for a given set of priors, there is a degree of fine-tuning where a necessity argument is stronger, because even though the priors for necessity might be low, the predictive power of necessity is sufficiently high compared to the predictive power for a designer, if the degree of fine-tuning is small enough. But you know, it hangs in the balance, right? Is the universe fine-tuned enough that that the necessity argument fails? I think that even for a reasonable prior, for not like, you know, 1 in a trillion or something like that, even for a reasonable prior, I think that fine-tuning is not strong enough. I mean, like if you just go look at the range of possible values that you could have chosen from, like it is still quite large. It's not like infinitely large, but it is still quite large.
When you say it's not infinitely large, what do you mean? Because
well, so what I mean is that the space of which the space where you could adjust the constants is and obviously we have to talk about probability density functions here, because we do have an infinite number of values. Exactly. But we're talking about measurement to certain degrees of accuracy, right? Like we have measurement error, so we can only know the constants to a certain degree.
No, of course.
So what I'm saying is that the range of possible values is not infinite, insofar as like the measurement error that we have on measuring these constants is like you could count how many overlapping values it could take on. It's still quite large. There's still a lot of different ways that it could have been so that you would have observed a measurably different constant. But it is, so there's a lot of different ways that God could have chosen the constants, such that we end up with life like that.
You know,
like
there are molecules at least.
Yeah. However, there's obviously there are way more ways that the universe could have been that don't have those things, right? So this is all to say, I think that like it's a matter of ratios, right? Like what's the size of the how much of the space of constants do our actual constants take up, given some measurement error, compared to the fine-tuning range, and then what's the ratio from the fine-tuning range to the full range? It's a question of those two ratios, right?
So for me, this is a bit of an issue because I'm not that into physics. Like, for example, sometimes people throw out stuff like cosmological constant has to be within 1/10 to the 120, or the gravitational constant had to be with...
Those are the two worst ones to give as an example, by the way. If you want to actually give a good one, talk about the ratio of the top quark mass to the down, or to the bottom, sorry, to the up quark mass to the down quark mass.
Yeah, something
that ratio
like that.
is actually finely tuned.
And then you multiply them together and you get a really small number, which might not be something you expect. But
right.
One thing there is, when you say possible values, one thing is, of course, it couldn't be like 0 to infinity. That's logically impossible.
I mean, like, well, maybe, but you know, we probably don't have good reason to think that that's possible. No, there's probably some necessary bounds, right?
There are some like logical arguments for, like, you can construct the lottery if you have, it's sort of like shuffling the natural numbers. That already seemed like a bit sketchy, right? If you can take a random...
Yeah, so no. This is a mathematical issue, right? There is a mathematical issue of assigning a probability density to a set with infinite measure. That there is a problem there, definitely.
And there, I think there's another fine-tuning thing where if you pick a probability distribution, let's say you pick a power distribution, where very small numbers are more likely to be chosen, and I think most of the constants are like pretty small.
Yeah.
That's already finely tuned versus one where you can uniformly pick between 0 and 100.
So now you're saying that the probability distribution is finely tuned.
Yeah, it must be. It must be because it can't be uniform, and there must be some probability distribution.
So I mean, it could be uniform. Like, I mean, maybe it is uniform and we just got lucky, right?
Overall numbers?
No, uniform over the logically allowed values, right? I mean,
what do you mean logically allowed values?
So it seems plausible to me that there are logical upper bounds, say, on certain constants, beyond which you don't even get coherent physical theories. That seems plausible.
I think I'm gonna believe you here because I just don't know enough physics stuff.
Like for example, I think that you can actually prove that like it's logically impossible. So even given different geometric arrangements, or they're called they're called LP norms, even given different ways of like defining a circle, it is logically impossible to have a value of pi that's smaller than, I think it's 2.
Okay, pi. I mean, like cosmological constant, gravitational constant.
No, I know. But I was giving this as an example. So you could say that pi is fine-tuned because, or that pi is that pi is fine-tuned because, you know, we have this geometry rather than that geometry. But even given that kind of fine-tuning, there is a way that you can show like mathematically, you can show that it's impossible to have a value of pi that's smaller than 2 or something like this.
Okay.
So that's the kind of thing that I'm alluding to. That plausibly, like, there is a way that you could have like these physical theories that just lead to inconsistencies if you try to set one of these constants to a number that's outside of a range. Now that range, I suspect, is very large. I don't think that it's like a range of like right around, or necessarily a range right around our constant, but like it's at least plausible that there is a range where you could have a uniform distribution.
Yeah, sure. But I think my main point was just that people don't give the fine-tuning argument the respect it deserves.
I think literally just made a video about that, actually.
Okay.
I made a video debunking a bad version of the fine-tuning argument yesterday, because the guy basically was using incorrect notions of what fine-tuning is. He like said like if the gravity on Earth was 1 in 10 to the 38th smaller, then the sun would cease to exist, and that's like obviously nonsense. And also, the gravitational constant is not fine-tuned. That's like an example of something that's not particularly fine-tuned. And then everybody in my comments, all of the atheists in my comments, were like giving horrible counter arguments to fine-tuning, like, oh, it's just the puddle analogy, or oh, it's survivorship. Like no, like the fine-tuning. Like, I think that it has issues. Some of the issues that I've laid out. We haven't even talked about the multiverse possibility, but it's not something that can be dismissed out of hand. Like, it actually requires some thought.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I want to give time to the other people waiting in the queue. I just want
I
to
appreciate
ask,
that.
would you, like probabilities wise, I think for me it raised it from like really tiny possibilities where like God isn't even a live option. It's like in the 1/10 to the minus blah blah to something more like, 10%, and with more arguments it goes up. But I think it definitely made it something where it's not a ridiculous option, at least, right?
So if we're setting aside, if you can come up with some justification for why God would want life like this, then I would probably agree that it would raise my credence. But the electrons and love kind of argument that, well, God could just make life in any way that he wants, seems like it just completely kills the argument. Like it seems like it seems like God doesn't have any reason to have picked any particular values of the constants. So so given that, it doesn't really change my credence much.
Okay, makes sense to me. That's it for me. Somebody else can jump in.
All right, Jojo. Well, thank you so much for being here. That was a delightful conversation. What a guy. And it stopped raining. Maybe Atheismo has shined his face upon me. We have some super chats to read, so let's read those. From Larry Beck, we have the 5. By the way, these are all from the vertical YouTube stream, so make of that what you will. From Larry Beck, we have $5, just saying keep it up. Thank you. From Smee Not You with the $2, I like to get horizontal whenever possible. That's fair. And another $1 from Smee Not You. I'm a Trinitarian horizontalist. Yes, an innuendo. That's funny. That's extra funny. And from Garba Gaiman with the 5 Canuck bucks, there's a numerical form of each Simpsons episode somewhere in Pi. That's interesting. I didn't know that, but that's interesting. That's intentional though, I think. And then Jesus Fulfilled No Prophecies with the $5 says, so which God is his God though? Because it would be a shame for all this effort to be about the evil God of Deuteronomy 22, 28, 29. I think he's probably, I think he said that he like kind of leans towards Christianity, but like, that's just because that's where he was raised. I don't think that he was making any sort of like definitive claims. And I can understand that. All right, let's talk to Andrew. Andrew, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Howdy, Andrew. How's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Oh, it's going well. How are you?
It's going all right. Do you believe in God?
So I have a little bit of like, I guess, a convoluted take on it. Like I am in a position where I don't have what I consider sufficient evidence to believe in any particular God. I don't consider myself a religious person, but for whatever reason, like I do feel as though like there is more than like just like the human experience. And lately, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is we're kind of getting to a point where, other than the fact that like we're able to physically interpret people, there's not a whole lot that I see that like serves as a real distinction between people and AI. And I just kind of want to hear your take on that.
Well, it's not clear to me that AI is capable of having thoughts. For what it's worth, it's also not clear that other people are capable of having thoughts, but it kind of gives them the benefit of the doubt. But
well, that's the position that I'm in too.
So
it's like, it's one of those things where we can obviously, like we can perceive other people and, like the things that they say.
They look like us and we have thoughts, so we expect them to have thoughts. Right? But I just don't understand what this has to do with like a divine being that created everything.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of where it comes down to. It's like I am not really convinced that there's any sort of like designer necessarily, but I'm not convinced that there's just no possibility of a creator. And I think a distinction between designer and creator is like fair to bring a little bit of light to, because like design, it sort of implies, like you were just talking to the last guy about fine tuning and stuff like that, whereas like I feel as though if we were to just sort of view it as like a program, if the program was just designed and then just kind of like let go and the algorithm just takes its course, like for me, that's what I'm kind of seeing as like the most likely outcome.
So what's the argument that gets you to the point where you think it's most likely? Like, what's the justification for the view?
I guess that just kind of ties into the fact that I see like so much similarities between like the human experience and AI, generally speaking, and the lack of sufficient evidence for like any organized religion,
wouldn't
but
that just
also not thinking that
the similarity
Sorry, go
could just
ahead.
be accounted for by the fact that we created the AI, right?
Well, yeah, and then
It's trained
so
on our
and
conversations.
that would yeah, and then so somebody like us could have just done the same thing. Like we could just be like a higher dimension version of the AI that we are
Okay, but that
using,
doesn't
right?
account for like the rest of the universe, right?
No, you're definitely right. Yeah.
So like, so I mean, like you could say
I
that
don't know.
like
I guess I
there's
just
some
kind of
alien
wanted.
that
I
programmed
just
us, maybe, but like that doesn't account for like the universe as a whole.
No, you're definitely right. I guess I just wanted to hear your take on just like the general concept of like this area of conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
Because like I
like
hear you talking about organized religion with people a lot, and like that's all like it's really
no,
interesting. I'm still a
I
pretty
mean,
new
like
listener.
I'm not really interested generally in organized religion. It's just that's what most people have. Most people believe in a religion, so that's what ends up happening. I'm happy to talk about like more like theism, like general theism or general deism or something like this. It's just that those are less common views. So
Yeah, I guess like I wasn't.
By the way, I don't think the
wasn't.
simulation hypothesis is very good. I don't think that we have really any good evidence to support it.
Okay.
I mean, if you think that there is some evidence to support the idea that like there's like a simulator that's running our reality or something, then by all means present it. But I don't think that there's really a good reason to believe that.
No, I definitely couldn't provide any evidence. And like that's my biggest thing in this, like why I don't actually have like I'm not committing to any sort of belief in either a god or like anything like along those lines, because of the fact that like I really just have yet to find any amount of evidence that I find convincing enough to commit to a belief in that regard. But I like generally speaking though, yeah, I did just kind of want to hear like your take on that sort of stuff. I wasn't necessarily like I noticed on the stream it said like opposition only, and I feel like I'm probably closer to your view
Yeah.
than like a conventional
It means I have to kick you
religious
soon.
person. But what's that, sorry?
It means I have to kick you out soon.
Okay, yeah, and that's totally understandable. Yep, that's
But thanks for
fine.
watching, man. I do appreciate you. Have a good one.
Yeah,
Okay?
I appreciate you having me on, dude.
Take care. All right, let's bring on the next guest. Let's bring on, I want to say that's Ivan Sheikhville or Sheikhville? Sheikhvili? Is it Ivan or Iwan? All right. I can hear them, but they're not coming up, so let's bring on the next guest. Troller Coaster, what a great name. What the hell is that shirt? It's a great shirt. It's SpongeBob anime. Troller Coaster, how's it going?
Hello, hello.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, do you believe in a god?
Oh, nice. I'm on. Yes, I do believe. Wow, you caught me off guard. I'm just listening to you, and then you called my name. Holy. Yes, I do believe in God.
Okay, and which one would that be?
All right, and here where we get to. Man, I don't know. And I don't.
How
I
do you
think
believe
there
in
is
something
God
if you don't know what you believe in?
Because think about it. Okay, so here it is.
I'm thinking about it.
God. Okay, I do believe in God. I do. I believe.
But you don't know what God you believe in?
Because it's hard to describe it. Okay, so God would be the God of. Okay, so let's think about God. You have the universe. So
yeah.
If you have a God would be something.
By the way, you have some horrible echo, and also your audio is kind of quiet. So if you could fix those things, that'd be good.
Okay, so maybe if I take you off Bluetooth, maybe.
Well, right now it sounds great.
So if I just be still and not walk around the house?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that would probably do it. You know, not being like 30 feet from your phone.
Oh, you're in earbuds.
But okay.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I do believe in a God. I believe it's hard. Okay. So I've been thinking about God. We have a universe.
We do.
So a God, a true God wouldn't be scared of a universe. A true God, it could stand outside the universe without any problem, without any presence of time or matter or anything. It wouldn't be scared of the universe. So there's that. A true God would be able to go to the ninth dimension, 10th dimension, no problem.
Why?
So
sorry. Why do you think a God exists at all?
Okay. I think a God exists at all because I believe in cause and effect. I believe in cause and effect.
Okay. And what does that? How does that get you to a God?
It gets me to a God because currently with my eyes I can see a lot of effect from a cause. So my God would be the original cause.
How do you know there was an original cause?
And now you're starting to understand why I don't know what my God is. Now you're hitting it on the head. That is something so outside of our existence. No human could ever wrap their head around that.
No, I don't think you understood my question. You said you said God is the original cause. What if there wasn't an original cause?
I mean, what? I don't understand that question.
Yeah, so let's say that A is caused by B, B is caused by C, C is caused by D, D is caused by E, and so on, forever. Why do you need an original cause?
I don't know. From what I observe in our existence, things tend to come from somewhere.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
Okay. So
and then the thing that they come from also tends to come from somewhere, and that thing tends to come from somewhere. And it seems like you should have a never-ending chain.
Exactly, and so I do believe in God, but I believe God is the first thing.
But if it's a never-ending chain, then there is no first thing.
Well, you started with A. A would be your first thing.
No, A is the last thing, right? A is caused by B. B is caused by C.
Okay, I got you.
I could have started with Z, I guess, and then just worked my way back. But then you would have said A is the cause.
But no, it makes sense. It makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, then, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just my human intuition to just believe in a God. But as a human and just as a guy, a fan of science, I can't put my hand on what my God is because that God it's so the things it can do is beyond human comprehension. There's no way to really understand. I feel like if a person truly knew God, they would probably kill themselves from vast knowledge.
But I still don't know how you get to the point where it's sensible to believe in a God.
Well then, okay, let me say it like this. I believe in a first cause, I guess I should say.
I don't know how you get to there, though. Like, how do you know that there's a first cause?
Because we're here now.
Yeah, but there could just be an infinite chain of causes behind us.
I mean, I suppose you're right.
It just seems like there just doesn't seem to be an issue there. And like, as far as I'm concerned, like, at least in the colloquial sense, yeah, definitely everything comes from somewhere. And so if everything comes from something else, and so if everything comes from something else, and the something else is part of everything, then that necessarily implies that there's an infinite chain.
Okay, then I guess my God would be a cycle existence that whatever supports the cycle to repeat itself or to whatever.
Well, who said anything about a cycle?
Well, okay. No, you're right. No one did it. Well, I mean, you make a great point. I mean, there's nothing I can really say to that. I still believe in a God. I just believe our God is something incomprehensible because there's too much that exists. There's too much we don't know. I mean, we come from a universe with quantum fields. That is insane.
It is crazy,
So,
I agree, but I don't know why that means that we should have a God.
well, because I mean that's a great point. I mean, you're right. Our universe could actually do a lot on its own, just through virtual particles.
In fact, don't do that. I'm gonna cry. In fact, it does do a lot on its own, right? Like most of the stuff it does. In fact, arguably all of the stuff it does is on its own, right?
Yeah, true. But that's the thing. You know, there's so much. There's potentially so much more information outside of our universe that we don't know, and I just.
I agree. I mean, there's stuff in our universe that we don't know, but that doesn't mean that we don't know something. Therefore, a God is real.
I think there's a God. I just don't think it's what we think it is. We like to think of God as a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs. I don't think that's what God is
No,
at
I don't
all.
think most people think that.
Oh, okay. Well then, I think God is just a foreign form or foreign material, something it's incomprehensible to us. I believe in it, but it's hard for me to tell you exactly what I think it is because I can't describe to you something that can step in between dimensions. I can't describe something to you that has the power to move backwards in time. That thing is beyond me. It can do things I just cannot comprehend or describe.
Okay. I mean, but look, like, I understand that you believe in God, but it seems like the reason that you gave me for you believing in God doesn't seem to hold up. So I'm going to let you go. But thank you so much for being here. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I kind of meant to cut you off, but I meant to cut you off before you started talking, just so then we don't have to do that. But yeah, thank you for being here, as always. Let's bring up another guest. Let's bring up XP Senpai. XP Senpai, how's it going?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. Do you believe in God?
I believe in the teachings of Jesus.
Okay. Do you think that Jesus, like, was the Son of God?
So I'll give you kind of what I believe in and what I'm headed towards. I can first off give you some like prerequisites of I'm not the best Christian, not the best follower of Jesus, and I think that is kind of my point on what led me to this conclusion on my belief on God. So
I mean, but like, look, it just sounds like you're a Christian and you just don't want to call yourself a Christian, which is fine. Like I don't care what you call yourself.
I would say, well, that's when I don't put it on the Christian, like the normal Christian. It's so.
I'm not saying you're a normal. I'm just saying that you're a person who believes that Jesus is the Son of God and is the Messiah. That's all a Christian is.
Yes, but your context of what your post is can you convince me to believe in your God? So more of like I'm giving you what kind of gave me the route on why I believe it.
But the way that you got there is probably not relevant as to the best argument that you could provide me, especially if the way that you got there is by some sort of experience that you had.
Well, it's not really an experience. It's like reading the Bible and seeing it firsthand.
Seeing it firsthand sounds like an experience.
Well, I mean, anybody can see the experience that I saw. I mean, I can give you an example right now. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Sure.
So first off, like, have you ever lied?
Yeah.
Have you ever lusted after anybody?
Does my wife count?
Before she was your wife?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you've cheated?
I don't think so.
On anything?
No, I don't think so.
Have you ever stolen anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, regardless, a sin is a sin. Okay,
so I don't believe in sin. So
well,
okay,
to the context of how I believe in it. Okay, so
sure.
like what? So regardless of our political beliefs, how we were raised, or whatever, based on Jesus's teachings, you know, if I've lied, I've stolen, I've cheated, I've lusted, so have you. The context that Jesus is teaching is that we're all on the same level playing field.
Okay, but what does this have to do with the God existing?
I think that this conversation wouldn't work best with me. So you can go ahead and drop me from this, just because it doesn't seem like there's a much of a two-way street as far as me teaching you why I believe.
Well, I assume that you wanted to come up and convince me that your God is real.
Well,
but you didn't bring up anything about
takes
God.
longer than a 3-minute, conversation on TikTok about, AI and all the stuff that,
I mean, we could talk for half an hour if you wanted to, but you gotta somehow connect it to God. Like you could, like, I might even agree that like that most of Jesus's teachings were good, but like I just don't see what that has to do with God being real.
I mean, the whole point of it is faith. So if you don't have faith, then it's not going to be real. If I have faith, then it's that's the whole point.
Why should anyone use faith as a way to come to belief? Like it seems like faith is just unjustified belief, which
So from your standpoint, you need a physical, evidential fact that you can see with your eyes.
It doesn't have to be physical. It could be like it could be logical, it could be mathematical, it could be historical, it could be it could be philosophical, it could be metaphysical, whatever it is, just some kind of argument, some kind of evidence. I just don't know what, like, faith. If faith is belief, if faith is belief in that which is unseen, i.e., belief without justification, why would anyone ever have that?
So can we agree that Jesus was a historical figure that was actually crucified by the Romans by Pontius Pilate?
That seems plausible. That seems super plausible. Yeah.
All right. So we have, regardless of any, evidence, that being a fact, and based on the teachings that he had, I have a 50-50 shot whether or not what he was teaching was correct or what he was teaching was wrong.
I don't think that's how that 50-50 works.
I mean, there is a 50-50. He either was the Messiah or wasn't the Messiah. Right?
So if I play the lottery, do I have a 50-50 chance of winning? I either win or I don't.
As I read someone's comment, I too am 50-50 God. You don't have thousands of years worth of textbooks and...
But please, can you answer the question?
Stories and stuff about you. I didn't hear the question. I'm reading the chat as well.
Don't read the chat. They're just going to be mean. If I buy a lottery ticket, do I have a 50-50 chance of winning?
You do not have a 50-50 chance of winning.
But I either win or I don't.
Depends on how many people are buying in a lottery.
But you just said that that there's a 50-50 chance of you being right because either Jesus is the Messiah or he isn't. So if I either win or I don't, then it seems like that's a 50-50 chance as well.
Unfortunately, I got a kid that just woke up, so I'm gonna have to bounce.
All right, go take care of your kid. Have a good one. Oh, he left on his own. All right, let's bring on David Bukalski. TikTok chat is meaner than YouTube chat. Don't worry. David, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So one thing that you mentioned was this.
Before we start, do you believe in God?
Yes. We'll just say yes.
And which one is it?
The simulation theory version of God.
Is your God responsible for all of physical reality or just our universe?
It would be, well, the difference between our physical reality and the universe kind of sounds like the same thing.
I didn't say our physical reality. I said all of physical reality.
Gotcha. So I believe in the simulation theory because I've got nothing better to work with for now. And in that theory, there's realities above ours that are responsible for the creation of our reality.
Okay. It just doesn't sound like that you believe in God then. All right, let's talk to Real Omnes. Or Re-Alomnes. By the way, y'all, make sure to join the Discord server. Real, how's it going?
Sorry, I was just about to leave. Sorry about that.
You're good. Take care. All right, let's talk to Alexei Nishov. I feel like there's something buried in there that I screwed up. Alexei, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in a God?
Yeah, I do.
And which one would that be?
Jesus Christ.
All right, great. Well-defined, love it. So what would you say is the most compelling argument you could give me in that direction?
Well, I'm a chemist, and so
Nice.
I know a lot about energy.
Yep.
My argument would be, since energy cannot be since energy cannot be created, and it can only be transferred, how is it created in the first place?
Well, it sounds like you're saying that it wasn't created in the first place, that it's always been.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, like, where did it come from?
Well,
Energy
it didn't come from
itself.
anywhere. It seems like you're saying that it must have always been.
Well, it had to have been created somehow.
But you just said that it
Everything
can't be
had to have been
created.
created somehow.
But you just said it can't be created.
Sorry, let me reiterate how I'm saying this. Let me think.
Sure.
So, if energy can be transferred from one thing to another and cannot be created.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. It can't be created, but it was already created to begin with.
Well, maybe it wasn't created. Maybe it's just always existed.
That's true. That's fair.
In fact, that would be more consistent with the view that you hold, that energy can't be created.
Yeah. Well, then same with life. I mean, how is it all created? Where did it come from?
I mean, life is just chemistry.
Well,
you should know
if you're
that.
saying it wasn't created.
Life certainly
if
hasn't
you're
always
saying
existed. At least not on
Yeah.
Earth.
Well, then where did it start?
It started
What
on
do you
Earth.
think?
I mean, the way I figure, life is chemistry. Life is complicated chemistry, but it is chemistry. And so with the right environmental conditions, I could see it arising spontaneously.
Rising spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of arguments with that too. I could see, but I just wanted to see your viewpoint really on that, because it's just kind of like one of those questions that I've always asked.
Okay.
Where did it come from?
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I just kind of have one question.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, Alexi. Have a good one.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
We have $2 super chat from Gretchen. Read the chat color. We're nice. YouTube chat tends to be nicer than TikTok chat. That's just a fact. It's just a fact. I feel like Nathan's been waiting for a long time. Nathan, how's it going? Oh, he's not here yet. Nathan, how's it going?
Wait, hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Nathan.
Yeah, so, I have an argument for God's existence.
Okay, just before we get started, do you believe in God?
Yeah.
And which one would that be?
The Christian.
Okay, great. And so please present your argument.
So, if God doesn't exist, then how do we explain consciousness?
That's a good question. If God does exist, how do we explain consciousness?
Because, like, God has a mind. Because
okay, how do we explain God's consciousness?
Like it always existed.
Oh, okay. So your explanation is that there is no explanation, it's just always been?
What I'm saying is, like, for us to experience qualia, there has to be a mind to give us minds.
How does that follow?
It follows because we know the universe, or like we know that life hasn't always existed.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
And we also know that a mind can only come from another mind. So therefore,
what do you mean we know that? How does that follow? What's the justification for that claim?
I guess it's just like axiomatic. I don't have any justification for it. I think only like the not conscious behavior, right? Because you could have a smart AI. I'm talking about actual qualia. I think it can only.
Why would you think that? Like, I mean, if it's axiomatic, then like I don't accept that axiom. So where do we go from there?
Well, I guess we just have to like agree to disagree, because I think it's like
it doesn't. It's definitely not self-evident, right?
It makes sense for me.
Well, wait a minute. Only a mind. So a mind can only come or what's the axiom that a mind? Can you repeat it?
Yeah. So I'm saying a mind can only come from a mind.
Okay, so your position
It's
then
not a
is that
brain.
there must have been an eternal mind.
Yeah. So what
And
I
we
was thinking
don't
is
have an
we know-
explanation for that eternal mind existing?
because let me explain myself better. So
Mhm.
because we know the universe, or not the universe, this is irrelevant in this context. We know that life with minds hasn't always existed. Therefore, you can't use you can't say, oh well, life was eternal, so that's how we have minds. But we know that life hasn't always existed, and God exists, or not. Sorry, there has to be a God, because there wouldn't have been minds if there wasn't a God.
So if you accept the axiom that minds can you're actually essentially running a Kalam cosmological argument for minds. Every mind which begins to exist has a cause.
Yes. Yes.
All of our minds began to exist, therefore our mind. Like you're running, but I just don't accept the axiom. I don't accept the axiom that minds can only arise from other minds. I just don't know why. Like that doesn't seem self-evident to me. It doesn't even seem. In fact, it actually seems like obviously false. Because I mean, like unless you think God is actively doing divine intervention and didn't just set things off at the beginning, it seems like we have most of the history of life on the planet Earth has no minds, and then through the process of evolution, there are things with minds that showed up, and so it seems like it seems actually like pretty evidently false, because it wasn't like minds existed from the beginning of the universe, and then they've existed consistently. It's like you think that there's a mind that started the universe, and then a whole bunch of stuff happened, and then more minds showed up, right?
Look, let me tell you. So I think that if there wasn't a God, right, and the universe just like I think there could be a universe in which there is not a God, but I don't think that even if every parameter was the same and the Big Bang was the same, right, and life or evolution happened and humans came to be, I think they would still act conscious, but they would not be conscious unless there was a God to give them qualia.
So when did humans get qualia?
Well, I think that it was like a gradual process.
So you're telling me that qualia developed over time?
Yeah, but like even to have the smallest amount of qualia, like
what's the smallest amount of qualia?
I don't know.
Because it just sounds like you're describing the an evolutionary process.
Well, to make the jump from non-qualia to qualia, you have to have a God.
Yeah, so when did that happen? Or what organism did that happen in?
It probably happened when a lot of time, a long time ago.
To humans or to something else?
I think only humans have qualia.
So when was the first human?
I don't know.
Well, look, so it's a hard question because there was no first human, right? Like this is just not a thing that is well defined, because there's not a distinction between the earliest humans and the latest, say, Homo erectus. I assume we're talking about modern humans here, like Homo sapiens.
Yeah, so evolution is like a gradient. There's no first human.
Right, and so you're going to have a hard time finding a place where it makes sense to give qualia to humans when there's not really a place where humans are. There's not a dividing line between humans and non-humans.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of right.
Now, the alternative view you could take is you could take the panpsychist view, so that everything has qualia. And then maybe your argument gets off the ground, but I just don't know why I should think that everything has qualia.
Yeah, but also you don't accept that minds can only come from minds. Yeah,
I also don't accept that. But
Like not a brain. Brain can come from non-brains, right? But the actual mind, the actual qualia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So then I guess I don't have any other argument.
I actually think that there's a deeper question here, which what does it mean for qualia to come? What does it mean for minds to come from other minds, in your view? Like, what is God doing when he gives something qualia?
I like to think of it as he's like dividing his mind. He's like sacrificing a part of his mind for us.
I don't think a mind is a divisible thing.
Yeah, well,
a mind is tantamount to an identity, and typically identities are not divisible.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like I couldn't tell you what half a mind is. That doesn't really make sense. I agree.
So I'll leave you with this, because I think that there's not really much else to talk about. I think that there's something appealing to saying, oh, well, the hard problem of consciousness is really hard under physicalism or materialism, so we'll just appeal to a god and we'll resolve it that way. But if you think about how you're trying to resolve it, you still have a really hard problem of what it means for God to give beings a mind. Like, what does that even, how does that work? Like, what does that even mean? So I think that you should think about it some more, because I don't think that theism gets you around the hard problem of consciousness.
You're like, I think you're right. I haven't really thought about it.
It's definitely weird. This is why I don't engage. This is why I don't do the hard problem of consciousness conversations anyway, because nobody has any answers. It's all completely unknown. Nobody knows what they're talking about. But look, Nathan, I'm gonna let you go because I'm gonna end live soon. Anything else you want to mention before I let you go?
No.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. So, it is noon, which means it is time for the live to end. We have a $5 gift from Lou. Thank you so much, Lou. As always, Lou is a longtime supporter, longtime fan. I don't know, fan seems like the wrong word, but Lou has been watching for a very long time. But yeah, I am hungry. I can hear my stomach rumbling. So before you guys all run away, make sure to follow if you're on TikTok, to subscribe if you're on YouTube, ring the bell, various things. But if you don't want to ring the bell, totally reasonable. You can instead join my Discord server, because my Discord server, I send out announcements for every time I go live, for every time I post a new video. You can ask me questions there. You can interact with a whole bunch of other people. There's like a live chat, so you can chat with people across platforms, whether on YouTube or TikTok. You can chat in the live chat on the Discord server. All great places to do. Anyway, I'll see you guys Sunday for the Unapologetic Show. Take care, everybody. Now I just have to figure out how to end the stream, because I have it on a lot of places.